Chapter 66. Zhou Xuanji stepped on Zhao Songjian's chest and looked down at him, saying, "It is not a shame that you lost to me." As soon as he finished speaking, he exerted force with his right leg, and Zhao Songjian fell to the ground. His vision was the same as that of the North Zhou Gale sword. Zhou Xuanji grew higher and smaller in his eyes. Unlike the North Zhou Gale sword, he no longer had the strength to retaliate. Previously, Zhou Xuanji's barrage of attacks had severed all of his vital channels. His spirit energy was cut off, and he could no longer maintain his balance in the air. The sword cultivators of each level stared at Zhao Songjian, falling with their mouths agape. Although it was not as powerful as when the North Zhou Gale sword fell, Zhao Songjian's fall shocked them to the core. It was as if they had seen a god fall. The invincible Zhao Songjian with 3 swords, the one who could climb up to the emperor's son. He was still no match for the unparalleled sword god Zhou. Like a rubber ball, Zhao Songjian smashed onto the metal frames and finally landed on the stone platform with a plop. Blood flowed out of his body, and as he lay in a pool of blood, he looked up. He could vaguely see Zhou Xuanji's legendary sword, but he could not see Zhou Xuanji. I've lost completely." Zhao Songjian fell into a daze. He felt that his eyelids were very heavy and drowsiness rushed over him like a tidal wave. Before he lost consciousness, a memory surfaced in his mind. It was his father talking to him, who was injured in bed when he was young. "Songjian, there will always be someone better than you in this world. Your talent is unparalleled throughout the ages. Don't force yourself. You have to understand that when the conditions are right, you will succeed." "Father, could it be that even if one practices the sword to the peak, he still can't become the strongest?" "Maybe you can, but you have to reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship and become a god of swords to be qualified to explore this question. Is there really a sword god in this world? You will meet them. Maybe you will become a sword god." Zhao Songjian smiled bitterly and finally fainted amidst the cheers of 1,000,000 people. After the North Zhou Gale sword, Zhao Songjian, who was invincible in 3 swords, lost again, and it was a crushing defeat. No one could find an excuse for Zhao Songjian in this battle. He was utterly defeated. Too strong. In this world, other than the sword monarch, who else can compete with sword god Zhou in the way of the sword? How did he do it? Even if those swords are used as ritual implements, it's impossible for them to perform sword techniques on their own. Could it be that they all have spirits? He really is the sword god. I'm afraid that even the sword monarch of Great Zhou would not be able to control so many swords. At most, he would be able to control all the swords to stab in one direction. From today onwards, sword god Zhou is my goal. The spectators exclaimed in excitement. It hadn't been long since the sword discussion had begun, yet the 2 favorites had both suffered crushing defeats. Both of them had lost consciousness, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. It was truly something that no one had expected. Zhou Xuanji stood at the top and looked down. "Who else dares to come up?" he said proudly. He had just defeated Zhao Songjian. Who would dare to challenge him now? The sword cultivators came back to their senses and continued to look for old opponents. Zhou Xuanji heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Facing Zhao Songjian, he had almost exhausted all of his spiritual power. At this moment, he seemed to be in high spirits, but in reality, he was a little weak. He stood where he was, surrounded by the divine swords, and began to recover his spiritual power. He did not dare to consume spirit pills, because if he consumed any kind of replenishment in the sword discussion, he would be disqualified. He did not internalize qi to cultivate either. If he did, wouldn't he be telling others that he lacked spiritual qi? I hope you guys can fight slowly, Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. He turned around, and his gaze fell on little Jiang Shui, who was at the edge of the stone platform. He winked at her. Although they were a few hundred meters apart, little Jiang Shui was at the foundation building stage and had extraordinary eyesight. She could see it with one glance. She smiled sweetly and looked very happy. Zhang Ruyu, who was standing beside Northern Sword Valiant, cried out in sorrow, Our senior is indeed our senior. He is both awe-inspiring and flirting with girls at the same time. He is a role model. I envy him." Everyone burst into laughter when they heard that. Little Jiang Shui blushed, but her gaze never left him. She suddenly felt that Zhou Xuanji had grown up. Although she had always relied on Zhou Xuanji, the current Zhou Xuanji gave her an indescribable feeling. Looking at this boy who had grown so awe-inspiring from just 2 years old, she felt sweet and proud at the same time. Back then, she was the one who carried him by the river. She was the one who cooked for him every day and brought him up. Many women around them were screaming. They thought that Zhou Xuanji was looking at them. Little Jiang Shui curled her lips and snorted softly. She thought to herself, "He is my Xuanji. You can only think about it." The CS sect disciples carried Zhao Songjian down to treat his injuries. Of course, only he could receive such treatment. As time ticked by, more and more sword cultivators were eliminated. Only Zhou Xuanji stood proudly at the top and looked down calmly, like a king watching 2 tigers fight. His spiritual energy was recovering bit by bit. The recovery effect of the sword Qi Golden Body incantation was very powerful. At least in this sword discussion conference, no one could compare to him in terms of spiritual energy recovery. He guessed that the sword Qi Golden Body incantation might be an earth-grade energy technique, or even a heaven-grade. He dared not be sure. He asked the sword spirit, but the sword spirit said that he could not verify it. Most of the time, the sword spirit was reliable, but sometimes he was not. Of course, he suspected that the sword spirit was hiding it on purpose. It was like playing a game. One must reach a certain level to unlock more information and functions. Although he stood still, he still attracted the attention of most people. It could not be helped. His battles with North Zhou Gale Sword and Zhao Songjian were too exciting. Compared to them, the battles of the others were dull and boring. Sword God Zhou, go! Eliminate them in one go. Someone with a loud voice suddenly shouted. His voice was so penetrating that it caused a commotion among the people around him. And then, more and more people shouted, hoping that Zhou Xuanji would stop watching the battles. After defeating Zhao Songjian, the outcome was already decided. Why waste more time? Zhou Xuanji's face was cold, but he was complaining in his heart. Isn't it better to let you guys watch the show? Seeing that more and more people were starting to shout, he felt that he could not continue watching. Or else, it would tarnish the reputation of Sword God Zhou. He immediately controlled the Bloodbath Sword and swooped down. In the current situation, he could only rely on the Bloodbath Sword. The more blood it absorbed, the more powerful the sword owner would be. The Bloodbath Sword had already leveled up to gold grade. Its flying speed was extremely fast. The sword cultivators who were fighting were pierced by it before they could react, and their blood was absorbed. Zhou Xuanji controlled it well. He avoided the vital parts and only injured the sword cultivator's muscles and bones. In a short while, he killed 8 sword cultivators, which made the millions of spectators excited. The atmosphere was jubilant again. Zhou Xuanji felt that his qi and blood, stamina, and spirit energy were recovering quickly. His speed feels so good. It was his most powerful legendary sword indeed. At the same time, on the stone platform, a Xia sect elder walked up to Xia Wuyo and said softly, "Suzerain, with his talent, if he enters the sword library for 3 days." Xia Wuyo heard him, and his expression changed drastically. The other elders were the same. Back then, Zhou Xuanji learned the black-grade upper-tier 36 Paths Jade Shao sword in half an hour. If he were given 3 days, wouldn't he learn everything in the sword library? Chapter 67. Just when Xia Wuyo was worrying about the sword library, Zhou Xuanji had fully recovered with the help of the Bloodbath Sword. He could feel the spirit energy in his body surging. It must be known that among the 50 sword cultivators who participated in the sword conference, other than Zhou Xuanji, the rest were all at Inner Pellet. Absorbing their blood and transforming it into spiritual energy was something that was easily satisfied by those in the enlightening realm. The sword cultivators who were stabbed by the Bloodbath Sword did not feel their blood being sucked away. Because the Bloodbath Sword was too fast, it did not absorb too much of their blood. Moreover, the battle was urgent. How could he care so much? At this point, there were 13 sword cultivators left on the 10 floors of the metal tower. Zhang Tianjian and Yang Che were still alive. The former was excited because he felt that Zhou Xuanji was protecting him. The latter was anxious and hesitant about whether he should take revenge. Zhou Xuanji stored his sword, leaving only the swine-culling sword in his hand. If he revealed too much of the bloodbath sword ability, he was afraid of attracting attention. He could already feel many strange gazes. He reckoned that there would be a lot of trouble after the sword meet ended. He suddenly leaped up and flipped his body upside down. With his head facing downwards, he flew past the 9th floor, the 8th floor, the 7th floor, and arrived at the 6th floor. On the 6th floor, there were 3 sword cultivators engaged in a chaotic battle. When they saw Zhou Xuanji land, they were almost scared out of their wits. Zhou Xuanji charged over with the 8-step sword launch. Without using the 10-sword style, he was able to fight against North Zhou Gale Sword and Zhao Songjian head-on. How could these sword cultivators be a match for him? In less than 4 breaths of time, 3 sword cultivators had successively been heavily injured, and they fell to the ground and were eliminated from the sword discussion. Zhou Xuanji slid down the metal rod like a spirit fox and came to the 5th level. There were only 2 people on the 5th level, and as soon as they saw Zhou Xuanji, they immediately ran down. Zhou Xuanji chased closely as though he was hunting. "Everyone, let's go, or else we will all be eliminated by Sword God Zhou." Yang Che suddenly shouted loudly, causing the expressions of the remaining 7 sword cultivators to change drastically, and they all jumped up. Zhang Tianjian did not go up. After all, he was already on good terms with Zhou Xuanji, so he naturally would not attack him. He already understood that he had no chance of winning in this sword conference. However, it was not bad to be able to show off for a while. The 5th floor. Zhou Xuanji was helped by Yang Che and the other sword cultivators, and all of them looked at him with complicated expressions, feeling incredibly nervous. Zhang Tianjian came to Zhou Xuanji's side and said with a deep voice, "If you want to deal with Sir Zhou, you must get past me first." He puffed out his chest and raised his head in a righteous manner. He thought that he would be cheered upon, but no one paid attention to him. They were all discussing how many moves Sword God Zhou would use to end the battle. Zhou Xuanji stared at Yang Che and said with squinted eyes, "You are very scheming." Yang Che was frightened by the look in his eyes, but he still plucked up his courage and shouted, "When it comes to discussing swords, we will rely on our own skills. Our strength is inferior to yours, but can't we join hands?" The other sword shio agreed with his words. They had prepared for the sword discourse for several years and did not want it to end just like that. "Umph." Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly in disdain. "Then let's go." He immediately took out the Crimson Dragon Sword, Frost Wave Sword, Tiger Roar Sword, Wind Cutter Sword, Swine Culling Sword, Heaven Sound Sword, Residual Image Sword, Thunderclap Sword, and Formless Sword. 10,000 Sword Dragon Incantation, 10 Sword Style. With a thought, the 9 divine swords shot out rapidly. He then used the 8-step sword steps and arrived in front of Yang Che. Yang Che was so frightened that he subconsciously wanted to jump backwards. Zhou Xuanji used the Trisource Vein, severing sword straight away. The horrifying sword Qi exploded like a gale and severed all the vital channels in Yang Che's body in an instant. Blood spurted from all over his body, and his vitality dissipated quickly. Zhou Xuanji slashed backward and decapitated Yang Che. Wah! The million spectators were shocked. They did not expect Zhou Xuanji to be so ruthless. But when they thought about how the North Zhou Gale Sword was struck by lightning, they felt relieved. The Sword Discourse Conference did not forbid taking lives. Life was already at stake in sparring, let alone when one was wielding a sharp sword. The subordinates of the Yang clan felt that the sky had collapsed. Yang Che was dead. How were they going to answer to the Yang clan lord? Zhou Qingxin shook his head. This Yang Che was really stupid. If it were before, Zhou Xuanji would have brought trouble to himself for killing him. But now, the world would only mock the Yang clan. Zhou Xuanji had already shown his strength. Under such circumstances, he still wanted to provoke him. If he wasn't seeking death, what was he? The other sword cultivators were struck down by the legendary swords one after another. Soon, only Zhou Xuanji and Zhang Tianjian were left on the steel tower. Zhou Xuanji turned around and looked at Zhang Tianjian. Their eyes met. Zhou Xuanji's calm expression made Zhang Tianjian's eyelid twitch. Zhang Tianjian immediately kept his sword and cupped his fist at Zhou Xuanji. After bowing, he turned around to face the million spectators. He channeled his spirit energy and shouted, "The unparalleled sword god Zhou, you deserve it." After that, he leaped up without hesitation and landed on the ground elegantly. Boom! The million spectators were excited again. The atmosphere reached an unprecedented peak. This time, they shouted the same sentence in unison. The unparalleled sword god Zhou. The unparalleled sword god Zhou. The unparalleled sword god Zhou. The voices of a million people gathered together. How exciting was that? Zhou Xuanji flew up to the steel tower on his sword. 8 legendary swords levitated behind his back, and one invisible sword was hidden. He was like a sword immortal who descended to the mortal world. His black robe fluttered majestically, and now, the winner of the Sword Discourse Conference had been decided. Little Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, Beixiao Wangjian, and the rest were so excited that they jumped on the spot. The brothers Zhang Ruyu and Zhang Rutin hugged each other. Zhou Qingxin looked up at him and sighed. Unparalleled in the world indeed. The sword monarch of Great Zhou had 7 legendary swords, and his name shook the world. Now, sword god Zhou stood proudly in the sky with 9 legendary swords. Looking at this scene, Zhou Qingxin felt like he saw a new legend rising. In the future, the name of sword god Zhou would surely be mentioned frequently. Xia Wuyo and the rest looked bitter. Oh no, how should they face the matter of sword god Zhou entering the sword library? Zhou Xuanji enjoyed the cheers of the million spectators. He was not nervous, but he felt a sense of pride. Somehow, he thought of Qiu Bailey. From today onwards, if you hear the name of sword god Zhou, will you think of me? You wanted me to be famous, and I have done it. Zhou Xuanji sheathed his sword and landed slowly. The crowd around the stone platform was still chanting sword god Zhou's name. Xia Wuyo walked up to him and pretended to be angry. How can you take someone's life? Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. The battle was urgent, and I was too anxious. Xia Wuyo was so angry that he laughed. This guy really knew how to find excuses. Zhou Qingxin, on the other hand, walked up to Zhou Xuanji with a big smile. He patted his shoulder and said, "From today onwards, the entire Great Zhou will be talking about you, sword god Zhou." Zhou Xuanji shrugged his shoulders and did not appear to be happy. It was as though any victory in front of him was nothing. Zhou Xuanji looked at Xia Wuyo and asked, "When can I enter the sword library?" With this, Xia Wuyo's face turned unnatural immediately. He felt that the world was falling apart, and he cried in his heart, "Oh no!" Chapter 68. 10 days from now, we will open the door to the sword pavilion for you. Please rest for a while. Our CS sect will definitely treat you well," Xia Wuyo said with a smile, looking very enthusiastic. Zhou Xuanji frowned and looked at him suspiciously. 10 days? You're not thinking of emptying the sword pavilion, are you? Xia Wuyo's face stiffened. The surrounding CS sect elders were also embarrassed. How did this guy guess it? Zhou Qingxin's expression was strange. He suddenly remembered Zhou Xuanji's terrifying learning ability and understood immediately. He had a strange smile on his face as he looked at Xia Wuyo with sympathy. Xia Wuyo looked at him and Zhou Xuanji and felt that he had lost face. How can it be? How can my CS sect do such a thing? All right, with the foundation of your CS sect sword pavilion, if I don't see an earth-grade sword technique inside, then the value of the sword conference will be debatable, Zhou Xuanji said seriously, which made Xia Wuyo want to vomit blood. Too treacherous. In front of Zhou Qingxin, Xia Wuyo could only bite the bullet and agree. Next, under the protection of the CS sect disciples, Zhou Xuanji and the group of injured sword cultivators were escorted back to the Xie sect. Little Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, Beixiao Wangjian, and the others were already by his side. They were very excited and kept talking. Along the way, they were surrounded by many people enthusiastically, and in the end, they had no choice but to fly on their swords. After Sword God Zhou left, the crowd dispersed. Xiao Jin walked out from the pavilion. He looked at the direction where Zhou Xuanji left and said, "If I want to rope Sword God Zhou in, what kind of gift do you think I need?" The deputy general behind him said hesitantly, "It's probably a peerless sword technique or a treasured sword." Xiao Jin nodded and fell into deep thought. Since he wanted to rope in Sword God Zhou, he could not return empty-handed. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji bade farewell to Xie Wuyo and planned to stay at the Zhang clan. He deliberately said, "In 10 days, I will go to the Xie sect. I hope you will not disappoint me." Xie Wuyo could only nod with a smile on his face, but he was cursing in his heart. After returning to the Zhang clan, Zhou Xuanji followed little Jiang Shui into her room to rest. Zhang Tianjian was the same. In the sword conference, he had suffered many injuries and needed to recuperate. The others were very excited, chatting nonstop in the courtyard. Inside the house, Zhou Xuanji heaved a long sigh and cursed. That was dangerous. Fortunately, my bloodbath sword can absorb spirit energy. He told little Jiang Shui about his predicament. He could not tell Beixiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin about this, as it would damage their reputation. However, it would be fine if he told little Jiang Shui. Little Jiang Shui knew how to protect his image better than him. Little Jiang Shui covered her mouth and mocked. "That's what you get for trying to show off. You just had to climb to the top, right from the start." As she spoke, she poured tea for Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji sat on the bed and said with his eyes wide open, "Since we're going to win, we must win with boundless glory. Yes, yes, yes. My little sword god, you are the best." Little Jiang Shui brought the teacup to him and blew on the hot tea before passing it to him. Zhou Xuanji finished it in one gulp and asked, "Where are the three-eyed drought rodent and the little black snake?" Little Jiang Shui shook her head and said, "He's probably playing in the courtyard." Although the little black snake wanted to escape, it did not have the strength to do so. And the three-eyed drought rodent could not leave Zhou Xuanji's side, so would definitely not run away. As expected, after an hour, the three-eyed drought rodent dragged the little black snake, which was riddled with scars, and climbed in from the window. "I hate," the dizzy little black snake mumbled incessantly. It was obvious that it had been through some torture. For the next period of time, Zhou Xuanji did not leave the Zhang residence. Because the entire swordsman city was in an uproar, he did not want to be surrounded. The sword conference's battle swept across Great Zhou's borders like a storm that swept across the empires. Countless people cried out in shock. Sword God Zhou was stepping on North Zhou Gale Sword, and Zhao Songjian to climb to the top. The news began to spread to the other empires in Great Zhou, and it became more and more influential. Sword God Zhou's position in the hearts of Great Zhou's people began to rise rapidly. The 8th day after the sword conference ended, an uninvited guest came to the Zhang residence. Zhao Songjian. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Why was this guy looking for him? Zhang Ruyu asked anxiously, "Sir, do you want to go and take a look?" Although Zhao Songjian was defeated by Zhou Xuanji, to him, he was still someone to look up to. Even Zhang Tianjian had to be careful when facing Zhao Songjian. Zhou Xuanji nodded and walked out of the guest room with little Jiang Shui. Soon, they came to the main hall. Zhang Tianjian sat at the head seat and chatted with the stern Zhao Songjian with a face full of smiles. Zhang Rutin sat opposite him and looked at Zhao Songjian uneasily. When they saw Zhou Xuanji, the three of them stood up. Zhou Xuanji sat down on a chair and asked, "Why are you looking for me? Don't tell me that this guy was subdued by me like Beixiao Wangjian. If that's the case, it's not bad." Zhao Songjian's talent was comparable to Zhou Yalong's. Perhaps even Xiao Jinghong could not compare to him. Zhao Songjian took a deep breath and cupped his fist I want to know the name of the sword technique that you used to defeat me. He could pick it up and let it go. 10,000 sword dragon incantation, Zhou Xuanji replied. Zhao Congjian frowned and began to repeat the name. 10,000 sword dragon incantation. Could it be 10,000 swords? His heart trembled. He could not withstand just 10 swords. 10,000 swords, he shuddered. At this moment, he realized that he was really a frog at the bottom of a well. He shook his head and was about to leave. Wait! Zhou Xuanji called out to him suddenly. Zhao Congjian turned around and looked at him with a tight frown. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Do you have a revered teacher? A sect?" Zhao Congjian shook his head and said, "I'm all alone and travel the world with my sword. Do you have anyone you care about?" "Yes, but it's not important anymore. Follow me." Zhao Congjian looked at Zhou Xuanji in confusion. Zhang Tianjian and his son were stunned. They suddenly thought of Beixiao Wangjian, and their expressions became strange. Little Jiang Shui was the same. She could not help but roll her eyes. Zhou Xuanji got up and said, "Follow me. I will teach you supreme sword techniques. One day, I will make you the top swordsman in Great Zhou." Zhao Congjian frowned tightly. "Is this guy crazy?" he asked. "If I'm the top swordsman in Great Zhou, what about you?" "I'm the top swordsman in the world," Zhou Xuanji replied as a matter of course. Arrogant. Everyone was stunned. Little Jiang Shui covered her face. Why does this guy like to show off so much? Zhao Congjian looked at Zhou Xuanji intently and turned to leave. He was a proud person. How could he be willing to submit to Zhou Xuanji? Clang! 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 Numerous legendary swords landed in front of Zhao Congjian and pierced through the ground, blocking his way. Zhao Congjian turned his head and looked sideways at Zhou Xuanji. "You want to force me to stay?" he asked. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "You have such talent and power, but you are all alone in this world. Don't you have any hatred? You love the way of the sword. After seeing my sword techniques, aren't you moved? Take me as your master, and I will teach you sword techniques. As long as you defeat me, I will let you go unconditionally. How about that?" Zhao Congjian was silent, as though his thoughts were seen through. Especially Zhou Xuanji's last sentence. Defeat him, and you can leave him unconditionally. Zhao Congjian was moved. Zhang Tianjian and the others were stupefied. If Zhao Congjian became Sword God Zhou's disciple, how terrifying would they be when they grow up? Zhou Xuanji walked up to Zhao Congjian and looked up at him. Most people only have one chance in their lives. Don't let yourself regret it. In ancient times, there were powerful beings who knelt before the gods for 49 years to learn ultimate energy techniques. You lost to me, and I'm not qualified to teach you? Zhao Congjian took a deep breath. He admitted that he was really impressed by Zhou Xuanji's sword techniques and wanted to learn them. But he had his own pride in his heart. In an instant, he fell into an internal struggle. Zhou Xuanji was furious. "Take me as your master. Is it so difficult?" He continued. "There are always people who are better than you. Do you really like swords?" Zhao Congjian's expression changed, as though he thought of something. His expression changed. Finally, he took a deep breath and half knelt down. "Zhao Congjian greets my master," he said. The third update. Today, it was already the first in the free QQ reading ranking. Everyone is awesome. Don't hide your recommendation votes. Throw them all at me. Chapter 69. There's always someone better than you out there. This was what Zhao Congjian's late father loved to say to him. Now that it came from Zhou Xuanji's mouth, he was completely moved. Zhou Xuanji patted his shoulder and smiled satisfactorily. "Become my sword slave. I will treat you like my disciple. When I can't teach you anymore, or when you surpass me, I will let you go. I can see that you have the ambition to become the most powerful. Set me as your goal." He waved his right hand and stored all the legendary swords into the supreme storage. Zhao Congjian heard the word sword slave and frowned instinctively. But thinking about it carefully, wouldn't serving Zhou Xuanji be a slave? Besides, the latter half of Zhou Xuanji's words made his heart beat faster. The ambition to become the most powerful. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to know him so well. Just when he was thinking about random things, Zhou Xuanji helped him up and said with a smile, "Let's stay here." Zhou Xuanji turned to Zhang Tianjian and asked, "Is that okay?" Zhang Tianjian, who was stunned, came back to his senses and quickly nodded in agreement. Zhang Ruyu and Zhang Rutan were still stunned. Sir Zhou subdued Zhao Songjian just like that. They felt like they were in a dream and could not tell if it was real or not. Little Jiang Shui was also stunned. "Follow me," Zhou Xuanji said to Zhao Songjian. With that, he walked towards the courtyard where he lived. Zhao Songjian followed him immediately. Zhou Xuanji pulled along the dazed little Jiang Shui and left the hall. Zhang Rutan swallowed his saliva and asked, "Brother, I want to be Sir Zhou's sword slave. Do you think there's hope?" Smack! Zhang Ruyu slapped him and asked, "What do you think now?" Zhang Rutan covered his face and said, feeling wronged, "No." Zhang Tianjian was thinking about this too. Even Zhao Songjian became sword god, Zhou's disciple. If he became sword god, Zhou's sword slave, it might not be a humiliation, but an honor. Now that the outside world was talking about how powerful sword god Zhou was, why didn't he get the moon first? On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the other two came to the courtyard. He called out Beixiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin. When the two saw Zhao Songjian, they were stunned. Zhou Xuanji said, "From now on, he is my sword slave too. He is considered to have joined our team, but we still need to work together." The latter part of his sentence meant that the revenge could not be revealed yet. In the past, he often said a secret with the three of them. Beixiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. But when they thought about it carefully, it made sense. To a swordsman who would not yearn for Zhou Xuanji's sword technique. Zhou Xuanji walked into the stone pavilion and gestured for everyone to sit down. After everyone sat down, he said, "Tell me, what do you want to do? I will help you in the future." Zhou Xuanji said. The conversation just now allowed him to see through Zhao Songjian. He knew that this guy had something that he could not reveal. With such talent, he alone, and he did not belong. Zhou Xuanji Kanji's Zhou the Chun was Zhou Chun was. Empire. Song Empire was Zhou. The Great Qin Dynasty was the neighbor of the Great Zhou Dynasty. The territory it controlled was no less than that of the Great Zhou Empire, and the two empires often traded with each other. However, the Great Zhou people did not know much about Great Qin. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "I will take revenge for you." Zhao Songjian asked in astonishment, "Aren't you going to ask who? What if my enemy is the emperor of Great Qin?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "Give me 100 years. Even if it's the emperor, I will behead him and give him to you." Beixiao Wangjian and little Jiang Shui were not surprised. His target was the empress after all. Although the difficulty of the assassination was lower than that of the emperor, it was not that much different. Zhao Songjian was shocked by Zhou Xuanji's heroism. He choked and did not know how to reply. At this moment, Huang Lianxin walked over with tea and poured for everyone. The three-eyed drought rodent dragged the little black snake and jumped onto the stone table. I am going to die," the little black snake cried, which caught Zhao Songjian's attention. He asked curiously, "The three-eyed drought rodent that knows all the treasures in the world." "And this snake," Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "his name is he gem-and-scaled black dragon. Have you heard of him?" Zhao Songjian opened his eyes wide and asked, "That fifth-rank demon king? Weren't he and Li Qimei killed by the sword noble?" Beixiao Wangjian snorted coldly. "Xiao Jinghong is my master's disciple. What do you think?" Zhao Songjian was completely dumbfounded. Xiao Jinghong was sword god Zhou's disciple. Although he thought that he was more talented than Xiao Jinghong, his current power was still far from Xiao Jinghong's. If what Beixiao Wangjian said was true, then could the he gem-and-scaled black dragon be a gift from Xiao Jinghong to Zhou Xuanji? The more he thought about it, the more Zhou Xuanji's image in his heart grew. From tomorrow onwards, you have to teach him a black grade advanced tier sword technique. Teach him every day until he reaches great accomplishment. Zhou Xuanji pointed at Beishao Wangjian suddenly and said to Zhao Songjian. With this, both of them were stunned. Beishao Wangjian was pleasantly surprised, while Zhao Songjian frowned. Just when he was about to speak, Zhou Xuanji said, "After you start teaching him, as long as he reaches small accomplishment, I will teach you a higher tier sword technique." Have you taught anyone sword techniques personally before? Zhao Songjian was stumped. He was obsessed with sword techniques. How could he have the time to teach others? Huang Lianxin covered her mouth and laughed. Back then, when Beishao Wangjian joined, he was also instructed by Master to teach me sword techniques. Beishao Wangjian nodded and said, "Imparting sword techniques allows us to see problems that we can't usually see. Master will never let us do useless work." Zhao Songjian heard and thought about it. Maybe it was a direction. Zhou Xuanji, on the other hand, drank his tea calmly and looked profound and unfathomable. But he was laughing in his heart. "Actually, I just want you to teach each other." In the end, Zhao Songjian agreed. It was not that he did not have any black-grade advanced tier sword techniques. All these years, he had killed many enemies and obtained many sword techniques. At this moment, Zhao Songjian stayed in the courtyard, in the guest room beside Beishao Wangjian. 2 days later, Zhou Xuanji came to the sword library under the guidance of the Xie sect disciples. The sword library was located within the Xie sect. It was 15 meters tall and occupied half the size of the Zhang residence. There were dozens of Xie sect disciples guarding it. 2 elders sat in front of the door and cultivated silently. Xie Wuyo and the group of elders followed behind Zhou Xuanji. "Go in. 3 days later, someone will inform you to come out," Xie Wuyo said with a gentle smile, but his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and immediately stepped into the sword library. Asterisk clank. Asterisk the sword library's door was closed, and the smile on Xie Wuyo's face disappeared instantly. He gritted his teeth and asked, "How much do you think you will learn?" The elders looked at each other in dismay. No one answered. When they thought of Zhou Xuanji's result in the 3rd stage of the sword conference examination, their hearts sank. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji stood in front of the sword library's door and looked at the bookshelves in front of him. He smiled weirdly and laughed. "If I don't learn all the sword techniques here, I am not worthy to be called Sword God Zhou." He raised his voice intentionally, and his voice traveled outside the sword library. Xie Wuyo and the Xie sect elders' faces turned black. Chapter 70. Within the sword pavilion, every single bookshelf was almost 12 meters tall, and there were at least 50 bookshelves in total. Every single bookshelf was 15 meters long, and numerous ancient books and jade slips were placed on top of them. It was a dazzling collection of books. It was hard to calculate how many energy techniques there were here. No wonder the sword conference was so attractive. What a joke. You want to learn all the sword techniques here? An old voice came from the side. Zhou Xuanji glanced over and saw a white-haired old man sweeping the floor under a stone pillar. Zhou Xuanji smiled with disdain. How could an ant know the power of a mighty eagle? He walked forward and quickly picked up a sword technique and began reading. Sword Spirit, remember all of them. Yes, Sword Owner. With the help of the Sword Spirit, Zhou Xuanji quickly read through the books. The white-haired old man burst into laughter. The legendary sword god, Zhou, was just like that. Zhou Xuanji was already fully focused and ignored the old man's disdain. His talent in the way of the sword was already extremely outstanding. With the help of the Sword Spirit, he almost finished reading a sword technique in a minute. He memorized every move and stance. He realized that most of them were yellow-grade sword techniques and energy techniques. To him, they were trash. After he finished reading the entire bookshelf, he finally found a black-grade low-tier sword technique. His face turned black. Damn Xie sect. If they really bully me, I will flatten the Xie sect. Zhou Xuanji held back his anger and continued reading. Outside the sword library, Xie Wuyo stood for a long time and did not leave. He turned to the elder beside him and asked, "Is it too much?" The elder replied, "I still kept 2 earth-grade low-tier sword techniques. Xiao Wuyo nodded and thought to himself, although it's a little stingy, it's not undeserved. I don't think Sword God Zhou can say anything. Although he offended Sword God Zhou, he was not afraid. His revered teacher was the sword monarch of Great Zhou. Moreover, 2 Earth-grade low-tier sword techniques were already top-notch treasures in the CS sect. Other than that, the black and yellow-grade sword techniques and energy techniques were not taken away. To Sword God Zhou, it was not a loss. He shook his head and turned to leave. He did not want to wait any longer. Time passed day by day. 3 days later, Xiao Wuyo and the elders of the CS sect came to the sword pavilion and waited. When the gate opened, they instantly smiled and seemed very enthusiastic. Zhou Xuanji walked out expressionlessly. Zhou Qingxin walked over from a small path beside the sword garret. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Senior Zhou. How much have you learned?" "Everything," Zhou Xuanji replied. Xiao Wuyo and the others' eyelids twitched, but they still maintained an awkward and polite smile on their faces. Zhou Xuanji walked up to Xiao Wuyo and said, "You are really generous." After saying that, he directly brushed past Xiao Wuyo's shoulder. In this trip to the sword pavilion, he had learned 2 low-tier Earth grade, 2 top-tier profound grade, and 3 high-tier profound grade sword arts. As for the other grades of sword arts, he was not interested in them. He only asked the sword spirit to memorize and organize them. For the sword pavilion that was renowned throughout the entire Great Zhou, the foundation that they displayed was a little disappointing. Xiao Wuyo forced a smile and didn't know what to say. Zhou Xuanji immediately left on his sword and flew out of the CS sect. Looking in the direction in which he left, he sighed. This fellow is really greedy. Are 2 Earth-grade sword techniques bad? But the winners of the previous sword conference had learned an Earth-grade intermediate-tier energy technique, which was widely spread back then. Compared to that, the sword pavilion seemed a little stingy. Zhou Qingxin walked over and asked, "Why do I feel that Senior Zhou is a little unhappy?" Xiao Wuyo smiled. Maybe he set his sights too high. After all, the sword techniques that he mastered are already extremely outstanding. Dual sword will, 10 swords mode. Even the sword monarch did not know that. Zhou Qingxin nodded and bade farewell to Xiao Wuyo. He was prepared to chase after Zhou Xuanji. Back at the Zhang clan residence, Zhou Xuanji gathered everyone and told them about what happened. Beixiao Wangjian slammed the table and said furiously, "This is too much. Could it be because our master rejected the sword monarch's offer?" Little Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin also looked furious. Zhao Songjian snorted coldly and said, "CS sect sword garret is only SOSO. Fortunately, I did not agree to become the sword monarch's disciple." With this, little Jiang Shui and the other 2 looked at him in astonishment. The sword monarch tried to recruit Zhao Songjian. Then why was he willing to become Zhou Xuanji's disciple, but rejected the sword monarch? Although Zhou Xuanji was devilishly talented in the way of the sword and mastered ultimate techniques that even the sword monarch did not know, his current power was far from the sword monarch's. Sensing everyone's confusion, Zhao Songjian said calmly, "I don't like the sword monarch. This person is too greedy for power. He mingles with the great Zhou's royal court and tries to win people's hearts. He is not fit to be the sword monarch." His tone was filled with deep disdain for the sword monarch. If this were to spread, it would surely cause a huge uproar. Zhou Xuanji drank his tea quietly and remained calm. He could see that Zhao Songjian was proud. Although he was already his disciple, if he did not teach him a good sword technique, this guy would surely find an opportunity to run away. He immediately got up, took out the swine-culling sword, and began a practice. He was practicing a low-tier Earth-grade sword technique, Vibrant Raindrop Sword. Even the Trisource Vein Severing Sword was only a top-tier black-grade sword technique, which showed how powerful the Vibrant Raindrop Sword was. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji began a practice, everyone looked at him. Now that Zhou Xuanji's body had grown, and with his cultivation, he finished the first round of sword forms very quickly. Zhao Songjian frowned and asked, could it be that he learned this sword technique from the sword library? He could not address Zhou Xuanji as his master yet. No one answered him. Zhou Xuanji began to practice again and again. After 50 rounds, vibrant raindrops, sword technique, reached small accomplishment. Zhao Songjian's expression changed. At this moment, Zhang Tianjian came to visit with his 2 sons. When they saw that Zhou Xuanji was practicing, they were stunned and did not dare to disturb him. They wanted to leave, but they were attracted by Zhou Xuanji's sword technique. They all stood there and watched. After 100 rounds, vibrant raindrops, sword technique, reached great accomplishment. Zhao Songjian was dumbfounded. Zhang Tianjian and the other 2 were tongue-tied. Next, Zhou Xuanji swung his sword with extreme speed and finished 1 round in 2 breaths. After 500 rounds, the vibrant raindrops, sword technique, reached its sword will. Silence. The entire courtyard was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Zhou Xuanji stored his sword. He turned to Zhao Songjian and asked, "This sword technique is called Vibrant Raindrops Sword Technique. What do you think?" Zhao Songjian's heart was in turmoil. He forcefully suppressed his astonishment and nodded. Not bad. Vibrant Raindrops Sword Technique was a fast sword technique. The falling rain was an illusion created by the speed of the sword. It was so fast that the sword stars were like falling rain. "Do you want to learn it?" Zhou Xuanji asked calmly. Zhao Songjian nodded instinctively. It was not that he did not have any earth-grade sword techniques, but who would complain about having too many? The vibrant raindrops sword technique was very suitable for him because his way of the sword was speed. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "If you complete the mission I gave you, I will teach you the Trisource Vein, Severing Sword 2. Without the supreme legendary sword system, Zhao Songjian would need a few years to reach great accomplishment in these 2 sword techniques, let alone the sword will. By the time he reached great accomplishment, Zhou Xuanji would have been reborn and would have an even more powerful sword technique. There was no need to worry that he would not be able to suppress him." Chapter 71. After learning the vibrant raindrop sword, Zhou Xuanji continued to practice the second Earth-grade low-tier sword technique, Tempest Slash. He did not mind Zhang Tianjian and his son watching from the side. Such a sword technique could not be learned just by watching. After all, not everyone was as devilish as him. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji continued to practice, everyone became spirited. Could it be that he could attain sword will again? Zhang Tianjian felt complicated. He really wanted to become Zhou Xuanji's sword slave, but he did not know how to ask. The Tempest Slash did not have many sword moves. It mainly focused on the technique of channeling energy. After he practiced for the 6th time, Zhou Qingxin came over. Zhang Tianjian signaled him not to speak and continued to watch quietly. Zhou Qingxin was stunned. Sword God Zhou was practicing sword techniques. He looked at Zhao Songjian, Beixiao Wangjian, and the rest. Then he brought his guards to the other side and watched quietly. Back then, when he knew that Sword God Zhou had subdued Zhao Songjian, he was greatly shocked. Now, he was much more curious about Sword God Zhou than before. Zhou Xuanji noticed his arrival and did not stop. He could use Zhou Qingxin as a tool. He repeated the sword forms again and again, and his speed became faster and faster. After 50 times, he attained small accomplishment for Tempest Slash. Everyone was shocked. After 100 times, he attained great accomplishment for Tempest Slash. Zhou Qingxin and his guards opened their mouths wide, as though they had seen a ghost. Zhao Songjian tried his best to remain calm. Looking at Zhou Xuanji, the arrogance in his bones began to dissipate. His greatest advantage was his innate talent, but compared to Zhou Xuanji, he was extremely mediocre. Little Jiang Shui was all smiles. She loved to see Zhou Xuanji's swordplay. On the stone table, the little black snake laid on the back of the 3-eyed drought rodent. It spat its forked tongue and said softly, "Too scary, too scary. Who can tame this devilish demon?" Dusk came. After 500 times, he attained sword will for Tempest Slash. Zhou Xuanji's body was surrounded by a strong gust of wind. He slashed toward the sky. Gusts of strong wind soared into the sky along with the sword chi, shaking the surrounding flora and fauna. Even the bricks and tiles of the buildings nearby shook violently. In that instant, everyone shuddered in fear. Zhou Xuanji sheathed his sword and looked at Zhao Congjian. This is the Tempest Slash, which is also an Earth-grade, low-tier sword technique. It's one of the two most powerful sword techniques in the sword library. Do you want to learn it? Zhao Congjian was already convinced by Zhou Xuanji's prowess. He took a deep breath and half-knelt in front of Zhou Qingxin. He cupped his fists and said, "Master, I want to learn." At that moment, he truly felt that following Zhou Xuanji was a massive opportunity. Such talent was even more terrifying than photographic memory. In the future, he could learn the most powerful sword techniques in the world through Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "I will teach you in the future. Pack up and prepare to depart." Little Jiang Shui, Beishao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin immediately went to pack up. Zhang Tianjian quickly walked over and asked, "Senior, where are you going? Why don't you stay a little longer?" Zhou Xuanji said, "Compared to a bustling city, I prefer mountains and rivers. Thank you for your hospitality. Let me gift you a black-grade, low-tier sword technique. It's not too shabby, right?" He flipped his right hand, took out a blue-covered book, and threw it to Zhang Tianjian. He obtained this book when he killed an enemy in the past. Zhang Tianjian took over the sword technique and suddenly knelt down. He cupped his fists and said with a deep voice, "Senior, I'm willing to be your sword slave. Can you accept me?" With this, Zhang Rutan and Zhang Ruyu became excited. His father had finally understood. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "If you become my sword slave, you will have to let go of everything that you have. We have all lost something and wandered the world to avenge ourselves. If you join us, although you can learn sword techniques, your life will be in danger." Zhang Tianjian was stunned and did not know how to reply. Zhou Qingxin quickly walked over and asked, "Senior, where are you going?" "You." This word was enough to show the change in Zhou Xuanji's position in his heart. Zhou Xuanji said with deep meaning, "We will meet at Great Zhou's Heaven Selection." He wanted to participate in Great Zhou's Heaven Selection through Zhou Qingxin's recommendation. But the Battle of the Princes was too cruel. He did not want to get involved. It was better to find Meng Tianlang. Great Zhou's Heaven Selection? Zhou Qingxin was stunned. Could it be that Zhou Xuanji was going to join Great Zhou's Heaven Selection? Soon, little Jiang Shui and the other two walked out one after another. The three-eyed drought rodent dragged the little black snake and jumped on his Zhou Xuanji's shoulder. Zhou Xuanji led the group toward the exit of the courtyard. Zhou Qingxin followed and was prepared to escort them. Zhang Tianjian followed along with his two sons. His expression changed. He was hesitating whether to join Zhou Xuanji or not. Actually, Zhou Xuanji did not really want to take him in. He already had a plan. The sword slaves he would take in the future must have a certain talent threshold. It would be best if they were powerful enough to form an army by themselves. No matter where he went in the future, he would not be afraid. After his revenge, he planned to travel around the northern wilderness region. The world was so colorful. How could he not explore it? After walking out of the Zhang clan's residence, Zhang Tianjian could not make up his mind. Maybe this was the reason why the sword monarch did not take him in. He could not let go of wealth and glory. His heart was not a pure heart of the sword. Looking at the backs of Zhou Xuanji, little Jiang Shui, Zhao Congjian, Beishao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin, everyone was overwhelmed with emotions. Zhou Qingxin said, "I feel that they will turn Great Zhou upside down." His guards nodded as well. Only God knew what they experienced just now. They never thought that a sword could be cultivated so easily. With such talent, even the sword monarch and Zhou Yalong were nothing in front of him. Zhang Tianjian felt a little lost. He felt a tinge of regret in his heart. "Master, you're going to participate in Great Zhou's Heaven Selection?" Zhao Congjian could not help but ask. He hated being an official and did not want to be a soldier or an official with Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "After Great Zhou's Heaven Selection, I want to kill people. After that, we will leave Great Zhou. Zhao Songjin shuddered. What kind of person must participate in Great Zhou's heaven selection to kill? Great Zhou's heaven selection was not a sword competition. It was under the emperor's nose. He glanced at Beishao Wangjian and the other two and realized that they were not surprised. So, he suppressed his curiosity and followed Zhou Xuanji to the city gate of Swordsman City. An hour later, the group walked out of Swordsman City and came to the wasteland. Zhou Xuanji let out a big and small air. The two dragon eagles fluttered their wings and let out a long cry, which attracted the attention of many soldiers at the city gate. Zhao Songjian's eyes brightened. Such handsome demon birds. Zhou Xuanji suddenly stopped and said with gritted teeth, "No, I'm still not satisfied." The group was stunned. Zhou Xuanji looked at Zhao Songjian and asked, "Can you defeat Xia Wuyo?" Zhao Songjian muttered, "I can't, but he can't keep me here either. Go and burn the sword library for me." Zhou Xuanji snorted, "Just set a fire. Don't burn everything, just a part of it. Who asked him to set me up?" Little Jiang Shui stared at him and said, "Aren't you offending him?" Zhou Xuanji stared back at her and said, "He already offended me." "Okay." Zhao Songjian immediately turned around and rushed towards Swordsman City. His face was filled with excitement. Challenging Xie Zong was truly a tough test. Chapter 72. After Zhao Songjian left, people came to him one after another to befriend him. After all, the name of Sword God Zhou had spread like wildfire recently. Zhou Xuanji had no choice but to let a big and small air protect him. His face looked fierce. Zhou Xuanji sighed. Fame is a problem for humans, and obesity is a problem for pigs. Little Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin heard him and burst out in laughter. Beishao Wangjian said, "Master, you have already entered the top 10 of Great Zhou's reputation ranking, but Great Zhou's hero ranking board did not record you. They might think that you are over 100 years old." Zhou Xuanji stared at him and said, "Nonsense. I'm only 11 years old." "Yes, 11 years old." Beishao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin were stunned. After spending so much time with Zhou Xuanji, it was easy to forget his age. After a while, Zhou Xuanji estimated that it was about time, so he ordered Beishao bring a big and small air to receive him. Yes, Beishao Wangjian immediately leaped onto a big and flew toward the Xie sect. Now, the two dragon eagles were extremely fast. Even Beishao Wangjian, who was at the enlightening stage, could not match up to them. Little Jiang Shui walked up to him and asked, "Will he really be okay?" Zhou Xuanji waved his hand and said, "Xia Wuyo is only the disciple of the Sword Monarch. It's not that serious." Huang Lianxi nodded and said, "Although Xia Wuyo is the first disciple of the Sword Monarch, he is not the first disciple. The Sword Monarch's previous disciples all died for the Great Zhou Empire. This is why the Great Zhou Empire respects him so much." Zhou Xuanji sat on the ground and waited patiently. The little black snake laid on the three-eyed drought rodent's head and shouted, "I'm hungry." Smack! Zhou Xuanji slapped it away along with the three-eyed drought rodent. The three-eyed drought rodent's head was dizzy from the fall. After it woke up, it vented its anger on the little black snake. In an instant, the little black snake screamed in pain. After half an hour, two dragon eagles flew out from Swordsman City, followed by hundreds of Xie sect disciples. All of them were flying on their swords. The leader was Xie Wuyo. His face was filled with rage. He looked at Zhao Songjian's silhouette in front of him and wanted to tear him into pieces. "Zhao Songjian, stop right there," Xie Wuyo roared. As he spoke, he held the sword in his right hand and thrust it forward. The blade trembled, and dozens of sword chi visible to the naked eye shot toward the two dragon eagles. Zhao Songjian stood on Little Fool's back, turned around, and swept his sword horizontally, dispersing the sword chi. He gazed at Xie Wuyo and said, "Xie Wuyo, your Xie sect is too shameless. The so-called sword conference is just a joke. All of you hid the high-grade sword techniques of the Sword Firmament Pavilion. What a pleasant surprise." He deliberately circulated his spiritual power, and his voice resounded throughout Swordsman City, causing an uproar among the spectators. The sword pavilion hit a superior sword technique? Wait, the winner of the sword conference is Sword God Zhou. What's Zhao Songjian's name? You don't know? Zhao Songjian has already become Sword God Zhou's disciple. What? CS sect is so shameless? If that's the case, who would participate in the sword conference? I fought with my life on the line, but in the end, I got ditched. Where's Sword God Zhou? Is he going to break up with Xie Zong? Cries of astonishment resounded in the city. Apparently, they were surprised by CS sect's action. The sword conference had been going on for decades, but it was the first time such a scandal broke out. Xia Wuyo's face turned green in anger. His eyes were filled with rage and murderous intent. Soon, the two dragon eagles flew to Zhou Xuanji and the others. Zhou Xuanji waved his right hand. The Crimson Dragon Sword, Frost Wave Sword, Bloodbath Sword, Tiger Roar Sword, Wind Cutter Sword, Swine Culling Sword, Golden Rock Sword, Heaven Sound Sword, Hell King Sword, Residual Image Sword, Thunderclap Sword, and Formless Sword levitated in front of him. The tips of his swords were all pointed at Xia Wuyo and the others. Xia Wuyo immediately stopped. Behind him, hundreds of Xia sect elders and disciples glared at him fiercely. All of them were furious. Although Zhao Songjian's fire did not burn down the entire sword library, it destroyed many ancient books on sword techniques. Zhou Xuanji stared at Xia Wuyo and said, I hate people who set me up. I'm already being very kind by not burning down the entire sword library. Xia Wuyo's expression changed. Our CS sect did not set you up, he said with a deep voice. Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly and said with disdain, Don't you know what's going on? Seeing that the atmosphere was tense, little Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, and Beixiao Wangjian took out their enchanted artifacts and prepared for battle. Zhao Songjian landed beside Zhou Xuanji and prepared to fight alongside him. He liked Zhou Xuanji's temper, never afraid. As a swordsman, one must ask one's heart. If one feels injustice, then draw his sword. Xia Wuyo stared at Zhou Xuanji fixedly and hesitated. Should I fight or not? Ha ha ha. The great CS sect will become a laughingstock to the great Zhou by doing such a thing. A heroic voice came. Xiahou Jin flew over from the clouds. He was still wearing his mighty and heavy armor and had an exaggeratedly large blade in his hand. He quickly landed between Zhou Xuanji and the others and CS sect. Seeing Xiahou Jin, Xia Wuyo's expression changed slightly. He quickly explained, General Xia, our CS sect did not do such a despicable thing. He spoke righteously, but some of the elders behind him blushed. Xiahou Jin ignored Xia Wuyo and said to Zhou Xuanji with a smile, Brother Zhou, leave first. Xia Wuyo and I have not met for a long time and want to chat. Xia Wuyo wanted to say something, but stopped. He understood that Xiahou Jin was giving him a way out. Zhou Xuanji was not stupid. If they really fought, they might not win. How should I address you? He asked. At this moment, he could not just turn around and leave. He still remembered this favor. He wasn't Long Out Yin, who could do whatever he wanted with regards to dealing with people. Xiahou Jin, if you want to participate in Great Zhou's Heaven Selection, you can look for me at the Royal City's military camp. Xiahou Jin said with a smile. After that, he threw a military order to Zhou Xuanji. 2 words were carved on it, Xiahou. Zhou Xuanji received the order and was stunned. Are all great Zhou generals so straightforward? He shook his head with a smile and left with little Jiang Shui and the others. Xiahou Jin glanced at Zhao Songjian with a smile. If he could subdue Zhou Xuanji, he would get another Zhao Songjian. It would be a great return. After Zhou Xuanji and the others left, Xiahou Jin looked at Xia Wuyo and snorted. Brother Xia, what's wrong with you? Suddenly short-sighted? This doesn't seem like the usual you. Xia Wuyo smiled awkwardly. He did not know how to answer and could only sigh. His relationship with Xiahou Jin was not simple. That was why he gave Xiahou Jin face. He sighed, maybe I'm really bewitched. Ever since he met Zhou Xuanji, he felt that he was not as calm as before. It could be because the Sword Monarch praised him, Or it could be because Zhou Xuanji was too talented. But it was just a little. His heart was in a mess. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the others were already far away. Little Jiang Shui curled her lip and snorted. That Xiao Wuyo is such a hypocrite. It was Xiao Wuyo who played tricks, but he still looked like he was slandered. Zhou Xuanji pinched her cheek and smiled. Weren't you afraid that I would offend him? Little Jiang Shui raised her chin and said matter-of-factly, I was afraid, but he dared to mistreat you. I hate him and despise him. Humph. Chapter 73. After leaving Swordsman City, Zhou Xuanji and the rest walked toward the Empire. They were not in a hurry, but traveled as though they were on a sightseeing tour. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji was paying attention to how Zhao Songjian was teaching Northern Sword Valiant. He had been teaching little Jiang Shui since she was 2 years old. After that, he taught Northern Sword Valiant and Huang Lianxin for a few years. Among them, he even taught the sword noble Xiao Jinghong. So, he had a lot of teaching experience. With the foundation of the sword's way, he could always point out the problems in Zhao Songjian's teaching. Zhao Songjian was ashamed at first, but as time passed, he looked forward to Zhou Xuanji pointing out his problems. He even took the initiative to ask Zhou Xuanji after he taught him sword moves. Because Zhou Xuanji was teaching him too, he definitely knew the sword techniques that Zhao Songjian taught him. Zhou Xuanji's questions always benefited him greatly. This day, by the river, Zhou Xuanji was internalizing qi while little Jiang Shui washed his clothes. She was the one who washed his clothes. Huang Lianxin could not help even if she wanted to. Zhao Songjian stood in front of Northern Sword Valiant and watched him train. When Huang Lianxin walked past him, he could not help but ask, Master, you don't even train with the sword? This was his biggest doubt. After leaving Swordsman City, he had never seen Zhou Xuanji train with the sword. He only cared about internalizing qi. Huang Lianxin rolled her eyes at him and said unpleasantly, Didn't you see back then in Swordsman City? With such talent, he still needs to train with the sword? To my master, the sword is a gift from the heavens. After that, she walked toward the 2 dragon eagles and prepared to feed them. Zhao Songjian was silent. At this moment, he suddenly heard a crisp sound. It came from his chest. It was heartbreak. He took a deep breath and took out his sword to train with Northern Sword Valiant. But why did he feel so bitter when he was training with the sword? After little Jiang Shui hung the clothes, she squatted down in front of Zhou Xuanji. The hair in front of her forehead was wet and twisted together. Her sleeves were rolled up, and her snow-white forearms looked extremely smooth. She squatted down and stared at Zhou Xuanji, blinking her eyes. Why are you looking at me? Zhou Xuanji, who had his eyes closed, asked. His tone was just as doting as before. She asked softly, Are we really going to Great Zhou's heaven selection? She hesitated for a long time, but still couldn't help but ask quietly. With Zhou Xuanji's personality, if he could defeat Xiao Wuyo, he would have done so long ago. If he couldn't even handle Xiao Wuyo, how could he fight the Empress of Great Zhou? She was also afraid of hurting Zhou Xuanji's pride, so she endured it for a month. At the same time, she felt a little guilty. If she was powerful enough, she could avenge her brother. Zhou Xuanji looked at her and asked with a smile, You don't want me to go? Little Jiang Shui hesitated and did not know what to say. Then I won't go, Zhou Xuanji said as he shrugged his shoulders and smiled. Ah! Little Jiang Shui opened her eyes wide and looked at Zhou Xuanji in disbelief. Zhou Xuanji said, No matter how great the hatred is, it's not as important as the person in front of me. In fact, he was also thinking about this problem. Previously, he had no idea how powerful the existences above the inner pellet realm were. After all, he had yet to truly encounter a stronger existence. One had to know that there were countless spirit spring and nascent soul realm cultivators by the Empress side. There were even leaving aperture realm cultivators. Xiao Wuyo was only at the spirit spring stage and was able to force them to retreat. If he went to the Great Zhou Palace, he might not even be able to defeat the Empress. As the Empress of Great Zhou, her cultivation was very high as well. Little Jiang Shui blushed a little and said, Are you always so obedient? Yes. Zhou Xuanji winked at her, but in his heart, he was thinking of another way. In another 10 years, he would definitely be more powerful, but the Empress would not remain the same. He still had to find an opportunity. Little Jiang Shui got up and bent down to pat his head. She giggled and said, "Good boy." Zhou Xuanji stared at her and said, "There's someone behind me. Give me face." After that, he got up and moved away from little Jiang Shui. In another 2 years, he would not be able to call her little Jiang Shui anymore. Looking at the grown-up little Jiang Shui, Zhou Xuanji sighed inexplicably. In both his previous and current lives, other than his parents, she was the one who had spent the most time with him. He turned to look at the others and clapped his hands, saying, "All of you, come here." Having heard him, Bei Xiao Wangjian and Zhao Tsongjian sheathed their swords and walked over. Huang Lianxin did the same. Even the three-eyed drought rodent ran over with the little black snake. Zhou Xuanji gestured for them to sit on the soft grass. "I think we need to change our plan. Does anyone know what the Empress has been up to recently?" Zhou Xuanji said straightforwardly. He did not feel humiliated or embarrassed. What was more important than his life? Bei Xiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin heard him and heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. They also felt that it was too dangerous for Zhou Xuanji to come into contact with the Empress. But in their eyes, Zhou Xuanji had always been unfathomable and could create miracles. Moreover, with Zhou Xuanji's prestige, they dared not to mention it. Bei Xiao Wangjian shook his head and said, "We can't hear news from the royal city in Swordsman City." Zhao Tsongjian squinted his eyes and said, "I know that the Empress is preparing to go to Merciful Melody Cliff in the next few years." Sword God Zhou wanted to kill the Empress? This is crazy. Not only did he not feel that it was ridiculous, but he felt an indescribable excitement. Zhou Xuanji dared to mention this in front of him because he could tell that he was not interested in the royal court. Many officials and generals of Great Zhou, including the royal family, invited him, but he rejected them all. Merciful Melody Cliff. Zhou Xuanji rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought. In the northern wilderness region, there were many transcendent sects and sanctums that were on equal footing with the empires. Merciful Melody Cliff was one of them. Back then, the Empress of Great Zhou studied at Merciful Melody Cliff. After her cultivation reached great accomplishment, she left the mountain to assist Emperor Yan of Zhou. In the end, one of them became the Emperor of Great Zhou, while the other became the Empress. It became a beautiful story. This might be his chance, but the Empress would surely bring many powerful cultivators with her. Whenever he thought of Lady Zhao Xian, he felt terrible again. His greatest hope was to avenge Lady Zhao Xian before the world forgot her. It was a pity that he did not lack potential, but he lacked time. "Do you know where is suitable for cultivation?" Zhou Xuanji looked up and asked. He was prepared to focus on his cultivation and wait for the Empress to leave Great Zhou. Zhao Tsongjian replied, "Within Great Zhou, there are countless blessed lands, but there are very few places that people can enter and leave freely. We can go to Immortal Sundering Mountain. This year's Heaven Selection will be held there too." Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "Which means we might meet someone from Great Zhou's Heaven Selection at Immortal Sundering Mountain?" Zhao Tsongjian nodded and said, "This is also one of the assessment missions for Great Zhou's Heaven Selection. The participants' enemies can ambush them here. Unless someone beyond Soul Fountain intervenes, Great Zhou will not interfere." Zhou Xuanji immediately slapped his thigh and said, "Let's go to Immortal Sundering Mountain then." If he could meet Emperor Yan of Zhou at Immortal Sundering Mountain, his other plan could be implemented. Of course, the most important thing was to cultivate. He would cultivate wholeheartedly, a legendary sword every year. When I reach the maximum level, I will barge into the Great Zhou Royal Palace directly. I don't need to beat around the bush. Chapter 74. It was 30,000 miles from Swordsman City to Immortal Sundering Mountain. Zhou Xuanji and the others took half a month to arrive. Looking at the undulating mountains and forests in front of him, the little black snake sighed and said, "Back then, I had also cultivated here for 200 years. Then, I was discovered by Li Qimei. From then on, I followed him on the wrong path and ended up like this. The group ignored it and continued forward. Zhou Xuanji clicked his tongue in amazement and said, "The spiritual qi here is indeed dense. There should be many demons here, right?" Zhao Songjin nodded and said, "After all, the Sundering Immortal Mountain Range is one of the best mountain ranges in the Zhou dynasty. There are many places that few people know about. Naturally, there are countless beasts inside." Little Jiang Shui asked curiously, "Why are there so many demonic beasts? Is it because there are many powerful demon kings hidden inside? The great Zhou can't do anything to them?" Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at her and said, "Of course, in captivity. To humans, every part of a demon's body is a treasure." As they chatted, they walked into the forest. The broken Immortal Mountain Range was full of flowers and trees. Birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. The three-eyed drought rodent seemed very excited. It dragged the little black snake and ran forward. A big and little two followed closely behind. Their huge bodies caused a cloud of dust to rise as they charged about, and the trees along the way were toppled. "Let's go take a look. There might be treasures." Zhou Xuanji instructed Northern Sword Valiant, and Northern Sword Valiant immediately gave chase. The three-eyed drought rodent was said to know all the treasures in the world. In the past, it often found many treasures for Zhou Xuanji, but most of them were spirit stones or spirit herbs or spirit fruits. Zhou Xuanji, Little Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, and Zhao Congjian moved forward slowly. Along the way, Zhao Congjian started asking about the difficulties of practicing the vibrant raindrop sword. Zhou Xuanji had already mastered the sword will and had mastered the vibrant raindrop sword, so he could answer his questions with just a few words. Now, Zhao Congjian had completely given in. Following Zhou Xuanji, his way of the sword had been improving. However, what he wanted to learn the most was the dual sword intent. Before teaching Beixiao Wang's sword to a high level, he did not have the face to make such a request. An hour later, with a big and small heir leading the way, they found Northern Valiant Sword and the three-eyed drought rodent. This was a cave located at the foot of the mountain. It was hidden by bushes and seemed bottomless. Beixiao Wangjian stood at the entrance of the cave and said, "The demonic beasts inside have been dealt with. Do you want to go down and take a look?" Zhou Xuanji nodded and led Little Jiang Shui into the cave. Zhao Congjian and Huang Lianxin followed closely behind. A big and small heir were too big, so they could only wait outside. The tunnel led downward, and the walls were slightly damp. After walking for about 50 meters, they saw a very spacious underground space. The walls were inlaid with all kinds of gems, and the light they emitted illuminated the cave. Not far away, there were 4 corpses of demonic beasts. They looked like crocodiles and were drenched in blood. Zhou Xuanji's gaze fell on a lake in front of him. At the center of the lake, there was a blood lotus that was glowing with a faint luster. One look, and anyone could tell that it was not an ordinary item. Blood jade lotus, this is a good thing. It can strengthen your qi and blood. If I consume it, I will be able to recover my cultivation base to the 2nd level. When the time comes, I will be able to help you. The little black snake laid on Zhou Xuanji's shoulder and said politely. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Congjian, go get it." "Yes." Zhao Congjian immediately walked over. The little black snake was overjoyed. "I'm going to become stronger." Finally, he didn't need to be oppressed by this stinky rat. "Are there any hidden dangers here?" Zhou Xuanji asked Huang Lianxin. Huang Lianxin's ability to see through things had been evolving. Not only could she see through the human body, but she could also see through mountains, murky rivers, flowers, and trees. Zhao Congjian once suspected that her eyes contained some kind of bloodline, but it was a pity that Huang Lianxin was not sure herself. Huang Lianxin's eyes sparkled with a strange light. She looked around and shook her head, saying, "There's no danger." When little Jiang Shui heard this, she felt relieved and walked towards a beautiful and dazzling blue crystal. Zhao Congjian quickly brought the blood jade lotus to Zhou Xuanji. The blood jade lotus was huge. It had 8 petals, and each petal was the size of a human palm. Zhou Xuanji took over the blood jade lotus and asked the little black snake, "Do you want to eat it raw?" The little black snake nodded excitedly and said, "My body is small. I have to eat it slowly." Smack! Zhou Xuanji slapped it away, along with the 3-eyed drought rodent. He tore off a petal and began to chew. In an instant, he felt a stream of heat flowing down his throat and coursing through his meridians. He immediately sat down and began to channel his energy. The little black snake was in a daze from the fall and shouted in a flustered and exasperated manner, "This old man cannot coexist with you." What responded was the 3-eyed drought rodent's butt. Zhou Xuanji channeled the sword Qi golden body incantation and cultivated on his own, while the others dug out the spirit stone crystals embedded in the walls. After they finished harvesting, Zhou Xuanji was still not done, so they decided to stay here for a while. Beixiao Wangjian and Zhao Songjian walked out of the cave and cleared out an empty space to continue their sword training. Time passed. 7 days passed. Zhou Xuanji ate 2 blood jade lotus petals and finally broke through to enlightening level 4. His sword Qi golden body incantation reached level 3, sword Qi soar. Previously, he was already halfway into his sword Qi soar. This time, he completely stepped into it, and the spirit energy in his body grew tremendously. The so-called sword Qi soar was to use the pores of the skin as the clouds, and the sword Qi would burst out. If the enemies were close, they would be killed by the sword Qi and shredded into pieces. After breaking through to sword Qi soar, he was in a good mood. He gave 2 blood jade lotus petals to little Jiang Shui, 1 each to Beixiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, and Zhao Songjian. He tore off half of the remaining petal and threw it to the 3-eyed drought rodent. He kept the other half for himself. Little Jiang Shui suggested that she give her petal to a big and small heir. Although Zhou Xuanji rejected, he could not stand her coaxing and pestering. After that, the group packed up and continued their journey. They planned to head deeper into the immortal Sundering Mountain. The deeper they went, the richer the spiritual qi. After traveling for a month, they finally stopped. During this period of time, they encountered many demons and even cultivators, but they did not interact with any of them. The place they chose to settle down was the top of a mountain. There was an old tree that was 30 meters tall. The trunk of the tree needed 8 adult men to wrap their arms around it. The cliff was more than 300 meters tall. Below it was a boundless forest. Looking from here, they could see very far. Zhou Xuanji began to cultivate crazily. Not only did he internalize qi, but he also used spirit stones and spirit pills. 3 months later, he forcefully broke through to enlightening level 5. Little Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin also broke through to foundation building level 6. Another few months passed. Zhou Xuanji continued to break through and reached enlightening level 6. Under Zhao Songjian's guidance, Beixiao Wangjian achieved small accomplishment in his sword technique. It was a black-grade advanced tier sword technique after all. To achieve great accomplishment required time and effort. Zhao Songjian's vibrant raindrops sword also reached small accomplishment. During the day, he trained with his sword and occasionally gave Beixiao Wangjian some pointers. At night, he internalized qi and cultivated. The others did the same. They cultivated spells or sword techniques during the day and internalized qi at night. Only Zhou Xuanji internalized qi from morning to night. He could even sit for 7 days and 7 nights without moving. This day, the sword spirit's voice resounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind. Analyze that the sword owner has reached 12 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner obtained. Chapter 75. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Gold Furious Ape Sword, Bronze Chicken Slaying Sword. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. 2 legendary swords? What was going on? Wasn't he only allowed to draw once? Every year the sword master grows older, he must draw a divine sword. At the same time, there's a chance to draw other things, including divine swords. The sword spirit quickly explained, which enlightened Zhou Xuanji. What if one day, his mortal rank exploded and he directly drew dozens of divine swords? If that was the case, then his 100-sword style would be realized. He took out the Furious Ape Sword and Chicken Slaying Sword. The Furious Ape Sword was a gold-ranked divine sword, so it must be very powerful. As for the Chicken Slaying Sword, this name, ahem, at this moment, a few lines of small words that only he could see appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Furious Ape Sword Level, Gold Description, a divine sword formed from the bones of the ancient angry ape. By injecting spiritual energy or magic power into it, it can unleash sword chi. The longer it takes to accumulate power, the stronger the sword chi will be. Special warning. There is no time limit for accumulating power. Sword name, Chicken Slaying Sword Level, Bronze Description, specialized in killing chickens, born to kill chickens. When Zhou Xuanji saw the description of the Furious Ape Sword, his eyes brightened. This feature is awesome, charging up to slash sword chi, and there was no time limit. Wouldn't it be infinitely powerful? But when he saw the Chicken Slaying Sword's description, he was speechless. He already had a swine-culling sword, and now he had another sword that specialized in killing chickens? Was there a special meaning behind the term chicken? Zhou Xuanji thought as he focused on the two swords in his hands. The Furious Ape Sword was a black sword with a lot of black ape fur on its hilt. It was very comfortable to touch. The blade was 4 fingers wide and 1 meter long. There was a small, angry ape's head at the point where the hilt and the blade were connected. It looked very sinister and terrifying. The Chicken Slaying Sword appeared simple and unremarkable. If it was placed in a weapon shop, no one would notice it. It was just an ordinary silver sword that was slightly longer than the Furious Ape Sword. It was actually used to chop chickens. Good sword, Zhao Songjin, who was not far away, praised. His eyes were burning with passion. As a swordsman, he had a keen eye for swords. Zhou Xuanji stored the Furious Ape Sword and held the Chicken Slaying Sword in his hand. Let's spar, he asked with a smile. Zhao Songjin looked at the Chicken Slaying Sword and shook his head. This sword is all right, but it's far from that sword. Why don't you use that sword to spar with me? Zhou Xuanji shook his sword and said with a smile, This is the Chicken Slaying Sword. Don't underestimate it. As he finished speaking, he dashed towards Zhao Songjin with the vibrant raindrop sword. Zhao Songjin's eyes brightened. He immediately understood that Zhou Xuanji wanted to teach him some sword techniques. He immediately used the vibrant raindrops sword to resist Zhou Xuanji. The two swords clashed, and Zhou Xuanji directly suppressed him. In terms of spirit energy, Zhou Xuanji was no match for him. But Zhou Xuanji was a dual cultivator of energy and physique. After he broke through to the 3rd level of the Sword Chi Golden Body incantation, Sword Chi Soar, his power increased tremendously. Together with the fact that his sword was faster than Zhao Songjin's, Zhao Songjin was naturally at a disadvantage. In the distance, little Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin were chatting at the edge of the cliff. Master is 12 years old today. Aren't you already 16? Time passes so quickly. It's time for the little girl to get married. Huang Lianxin sighed in amazement. She was only in her 20s, which was the prime of a woman's life. She wore a long dress the color of a green lotus and had 2 hairpins in her hairbun. Together with her pretty face, she could charm most men. Although little Jiang Shui looked young beside her, her looks were more exquisite. Her eyes were bright, and she wore a golden thorn inner armor with a layer of blue clothes and a white long robe. She wore a jade phoenix evil destroyer hairpin on her head. She already had the looks and temperament that could cause the downfall of a city. Hearing Huang Lianxin's words, she blushed and mumbled, I'm not getting married. Young girls were always full of anticipation and shyness toward love. Huang Lianxin smiled faintly and said, Are you waiting for Master to grow up? In their eyes, Zhou Xuanji was the reincarnation of an ancient powerhouse, so they had never treated him as a child. Huang Lianxin had already seen through little Jiang Shui's thoughts, but Zhou Xuanji did not. This guy was really a cultivation maniac. Usually, he only talked about cultivation. Little Jiang Shui lowered her head. Even her ears were red. Every time this happened, she would think back to the day when she first met Zhou Xuanji. That day, when she was bullied and returned to her room, Zhou Xuanji was lying on the bed. "Sister, I'm thirsty," he called out to her. She would never forget that scene for the rest of her life. She raised her head and asked with a blushing face, "Sister Lianxin, do you have someone you like?" Huang Lianxin was a little stunned. She shook her head and laughed, saying, "All I think about is revenge. I have already given up on love." Little Jiang Shui blinked and said, "Then you don't know what love is either." Huang Lianxin heard her and blushed. She faked a cough and said, "Of course I know. What is love? To hold hands and never be separated. To have each other in your heart. That is love." "Really?" The two girls began to discuss love. To prove that she understood love, Huang Lianxin began to tell little Jiang Shui about the love legends in the northern wilderness region. On the other side, Northern Valiant Sword's attention was attracted by Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Songjin's spar. He had a weird expression and mumbled, "Master's sword. Why does it always stab downward?" Zhou Xuanji was astonished in his heart too. Why did his chicken-slaying sword always stab downward? Zhao Songjin's face turned red. With the vibrant raindrop sword, he really could not withstand Zhou Xuanji's attacks. He wanted to use other sword techniques, but the pride in his heart did not allow him to. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji kept his sword and stood up straight. He faked a cough and said, "Let's stop here. Do you know where you are lacking?" Zhao Songjin took a deep breath and cupped his fist at Zhou Xuanji in shame. He turned around and left immediately. He planned to practice the vibrant raindrops sword throughout the night. Zhou Xuanji turned around to look at Northern Valiant Sword and slowly raised the chicken-slaying sword. Northern Valiant Sword shuddered. He felt a gust of cold wind drilling between his legs, and he immediately escaped. Zhou Xuanji looked at the chicken-slaying sword in his hand and sighed in amazement. It's really the chicken-slaying sword. After that, he stored the legendary sword into the supreme storage. He turned around and walked toward little Jiang Shui. He wanted to hear what the two girls were talking about. His hearing was outstanding, so he could hear their conversation before he even got close. "So, they're telling a story." Zhou Xuanji smiled. He quickly sat down beside little Jiang Shui and asked with a smile, "What story are you two telling?" Little Jiang Shui hugged his shoulder and giggled. "You tell me." Sister Lianxin's stories are not good at all. The endings are too tragic. Huang Lianxin mumbled, "Master knows about love stories? He can only tell you stories about the rise of powerful cultivators." Zhou Xuanji stared at her and said, "Who says I don't know? I know so many stories that you will be scared to death." Yeah. You tell me. Tell me a beautiful love story." Little Jiang Shui nodded with a smile and urged him. Since she was young, she often listened to Zhou Xuanji's stories. Zhou Xuanji could always tell her different and interesting stories. Listen up. I will tell you a beautiful love story that will touch the hearts of all ages." Zhou Xuanji slapped away little Jiang Shui's hand that was on his shoulder and began to tell the story. Legend has it that there was a powerful god in the sky. His name was Marshal Tianpeng, and he led 100,000 heavenly river navy soldiers. He was majestic and awe-inspiring, and he awed the three realms. After that, he made a mistake while drinking and was banished to the mortal realm. He was turned into a pig, and when he was young, he was almost killed. Fortunately, a little girl could not bear to see him like that, so she asked her parents to buy him and let him go. Marshal Tianpeng began to cultivate in the wild. After that, he became a demon king and returned in human form to search for the little girl who saved his life. But hundreds of years passed, and the world changed. The little girl reincarnated and was born in a wealthy family called Gaolao Village. The first update of the night, I updated Zhou Xuanji's attributes in the forum. There will be more content announced in advance. You could go and take a look. Chapter 76. Zhou Xuanji narrated Canopy Marshal's story. His voice was not soft, and even Zhao Songjian and Beishao Wangjian, who were far away, were listening. Heaven Realm? Canopy Marshal? 100,000 Heavenly River Navy? Why hadn't they heard of such a legend? Hearing Zhou Xuanji speak as if it was the truth, they almost believed him. As the story progressed, the evil monk Tang Xuanzeng brought his demonic disciple, Sun Wukong, to separate the Canopy Marshal and Lady Gao, who had finally gotten together. Little Jiang Shui and little Jiang Shui's tears fell as they listened to the story. In order to let Miss Gao live forever and accompany him forever, the Canopy Marshal bade farewell to Miss Gao and was given the name Zhu Beiji by Tang Xuanzong, with the courtesy name warning. He became Tang Xuanzong's servant and went with him to the Western Paradise to obtain scriptures. Zhou Xuanji told the ending of the story, and he even sighed. He could not describe the joys and sorrows of parting and reuniting, nor the feelings of love. The two women were already sobbing uncontrollably. Zhao Songjian sighed in a low voice. What a great Marshal Tian Peng. He knows when to yield and when to stand tall. He's a hero. Northern Valiant Sword was also at a loss as he thought of her. Heroes always fall for the charms of a beautiful woman. Little Jiang Shui wiped the tears off her face. Her eyes were red and swollen. She grabbed Zhou Xuanji's arm and asked, "What happened after that? Did Canopy Marshal reunite with Miss Gao?" Huang Lianxin also looked at Zhou Xuanji, hoping that Canopy Marshal would have a good ending. If such a sentimental hero could not get what he wanted, how many lifetimes would he have to search for Miss Gao? Zhou Xuanji got up and looked into the distance. He went to the Western Paradise and became a pure altar emissary under Buddha. He could never see Miss Gao again, and Miss Gao could not withstand the mercilessness of time. She turned into dust and disappeared with the wind. Everyone in the world praises immortals and Buddhas, but who can escape from mortal emotions? Be it immortals or demons, they can't escape love. With that, he shook his head and left in a huff. Even he himself couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Now that he was acting, it was really smooth and natural with a unique charm. Little Jiang Shui was stunned. She quickly got up and chased after Zhou Xuanji. She tilted her head and asked, "Will they really never meet again?" Her tone was low, which made Zhou Xuanji feel quite helpless. Did I speak too well, or are you too soft-hearted? Stories belong to others. What you should be concerned about is how you write your own story. Zhou Xuanji patted her head and comforted her. Little Jiang Shui nodded and pouted. "Why do you sound so reasonable now? Have you grown up?" Zhou Xuanji almost collapsed in laughter. What did it mean to grow up? Little Jiang Shui hooked her arms around Zhou Xuanji's neck and pressed her forehead against his. She asked softly, "Tell me, do you have someone you like? You know so many stories, you must have matured early." Zhou Xuanji stared at her and wanted to break free, but the girl did not let go. He said helplessly, "I'm only 12 years old. How can I have a sweetheart?" Young girls in the prime of their youth were just too troublesome, thinking about nonsense all day long. Little Jiang Shui let go with satisfaction, and Zhou Xuanji quickly escaped. "Wait, he doesn't have a sweetheart?" Little Jiang Shui suddenly thought of something, and her face darkened. It was a pity that Zhou Xuanji had already disappeared. For the next month, little Jiang Shui was sulking, although she still washed his clothes and cooked for him. Every time he talked to her, she would turn around with a cold snort and ignore him. Zhou Xuanji was amused. He knew exactly what little Jiang Shui was thinking. He just wanted to anger her. 5 months later, Zhou Xuanji broke through again and reached enlightening level 7. This day, Zhao Songjian returned on his sword. He landed beside Zhou Xuanji, bowed, and said, "Master, Great Zhou's heaven selection has begun. There are 372 participants in the martial science exam. Their goal is to hunt down rank 4 demons, rank 5 demon kings, and rank 6 great demon kings." Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and asked in astonishment, "They can only kill rank 3 demons?" Zhao Songjin nodded and said, "If it's any lower, it wouldn't be in line with Great Zhou's heaven-chosen level." Great Zhou has sent a second-ranked general and 6 third-ranked generals to guard and patrol. Among them is Xiahou Jin, who helped us that day. Is Meng Tianlang here? Zhou Xuanji asked. He did not feel guilty for standing Meng Tianlang up. After all, he did not owe Meng Tianlang anything. He had never used the General Meng token. He's here, Zhao Songjin said. Many princes and princesses came from the royal family, but the emperor and the empress did not come. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, Ignore them. Let's continue our cultivation. Although Great Zhou's heaven selection was held at a mortal sundering mountain, Great Zhou did not clear out its participants. Even if the heaven chosen had conflicts with unrelated people or killed each other, they would not interfere. As long as one's cultivation did not exceed Soul Fountain, it would be a test. So, in every heaven selection, many failed participants came to look for trouble. This made Great Zhou extremely lively during Great Zhou's heaven selection. All kinds of news spread like wildfire. Zhao Songjin nodded and walked under the tree to continue his sword practice. That day, after Huang Lianxin, Beixiao Wangjian, a big and small heir returned, Zhou Xuanji gathered them and reminded them not to go out casually, in case something bad happened to them. No one objected. Little Jiang Shui asked, Are we going to stay here? Not hide. The top of the cliff was too conspicuous, and there would be trouble. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, There are so many geniuses. There might be someone suitable to be my sword slave. Everyone's eyes brightened, and they were all looking forward to it. Zhao Songjin looked at Beixiao Wangjian and said, Go and practice your sword skills. If you don't succeed soon, there will be newcomers, and you will still be at the bottom. Beixiao Wangjian was a little depressed. Didn't I still have Huang Lianxin? The first round of Great Zhou's heaven selection lasted for a year. 20 out of the 372 would enter Great Zhou's royal city, and the top 3 would be decided under the emperor's nose. The group continued to cultivate. They had already built 5 wooden huts under the tree, and they stored plenty of firewood and food. There was a small river at the foot of the mountain, and they could wash up. With their cultivation, they could jump into the river with their clothes on and use their magic energy to evaporate the water. They did not even need to take off their clothes. They could just change in the huts. The group began to cultivate day after day. After dinner every day, Zhou Xuanji would tell them stories. The stories were filled with logic, and even Zhao Songjin loved to listen to them. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months passed. This day, a genius finally came to Zhou Xuanji and the rest. I'm Long Yantian, ranked 26th on Great Zhou's hero ranking board. How about selling these 2 dragon eagles to me? A handsome young man came on a flying fan. He wore a green robe and had an extraordinary demeanor. He stared at a big and small heir with a burning gaze. Zhou Xuanji and the rest laughed. Let me do it, Beixiao Wangjian said excitedly. Huang Lianxin rolled her eyes at him and said, Why don't you consider yourself? You want to die with your enlightening stage cultivation? Long Yantian saw that Huang Lianxin was beautiful and that she said such words. He immediately raised his chin and looked arrogant. Zhao Songjin got up slowly and looked at Long Yantian. I'm Zhao Songjin, ranked 9th on Great Zhou's hero ranking board. Since you are here, then stay. Long Yantian opened his eyes wide and was stunned. Chapter 77. 9th on the Great Zhou's reputation ranking, Zhao Songjin. Long Yantian widened his eyes in shock, and his brain stopped working. He frowned and shouted, Zhao Songjin, how could this be? Aren't you the new disciple of the Sword Monarch? Why are you here? The Sword Monarch's disciple would not participate in Great Zhou's heaven selection. This was a strict order from the Sword Monarch. Zhao Songjin frowned when he heard that. Before he participated in the CSX sword discourse, the news that he was the Sword Emperor's disciple had spread. However, he had never seen the Sword Emperor with his own eyes. The Sword Emperor had sent someone to see him and expressed his intention to take him in as a disciple, but he was too arrogant and had directly refused. But after that, the news of him being the Sword Emperor's disciple didn't stop. It became even more intense. As time passed, Everyone in the world thought that he was the Sword Emperor's disciple, causing him to be extremely disgusted with the Sword Emperor. Hearing Long Yantian mention this again, his eyes turned cold, and he suddenly leaped up with his sword. Zhao Congjian's speed was very fast. Before Long Yantian could escape, he was already close to him. Long Yantian leaped, and the flying fan under his feet landed in his hands. He waved it at Zhao Congjian. Zhao Congjian shook his long sword, and countless sword stars shot out, drowning Long Yantian. In an instant, Long Yantian's robes were cut open and blood splattered everywhere. Vibrant raindrops soared. Now, Zhao Congjian's sword technique was nearing completion. Even if it was still lacking, it was enough to defeat Long Yantian. Zhou Xuanji waved at Beixiao Wangjian. When Beixiao Wangjian walked up to him, he asked curiously, Zhao Congjian did not even reach Soul Fountain. Why is he ranked 9th? Meng Tianlang and Xiao Jinghong were both at the Spirit Spring stage. The latter could kill 5th-ranked demons and Spirit Spring experts like slaughtering chickens and dogs. Could it be that there was a dividing line within the Great Zhou's reputation list? Northern Sword Valiant smiled bitterly. The Zhou dynasty's reputation chart is a chart for those below 100 years old. Master, do you think everyone is like you, reaching the 7th level of the enlightening state at the age of 12? With Zhou Xuanji's pace, he might have broken through to Soul Fountain by the age of 20. Looking at him, Northern Sword Valiant could not help but sigh. Talent was really a cruel thing. Zhou Xuanji blinked and said, Seems like our Great Zhou's talents are declining. Northern Sword Valiant. The battle between Zhao Congjian and Long Yantian continued. Long Yantian was no match for Zhao Congjian at all. In less than 100 rounds, he was defeated. In the end, he was thrown to the top of the cliff by Zhao Congjian. His storage ring and storage bag were all taken away. His face was filled with despair as he lay down like a corpse. Northern Sword Valiant asked, This person is one of the top 30 on the hero ranking board of Great Zhou. Is he qualified to be your sword slave? Sword slave? Long Yantian shuddered and turned to look at Zhou Xuanji instinctively. A child? Wait a minute. Children. 2 dragon eagles. Long Yantian seemed to have thought of something, and his face turned horrified. He said with a trembling voice, unparalleled in the world, Sword God Zhou. At this moment, he wished for nothing more than to give himself a few slaps. He was too rash. Zhou Xuanji walked up to Long Yantian and looked down at him. He doesn't know the sword. Let him go, he said with a frown. Long Yantian was excited when he heard that. He struggled to get up and stammered, Thank you, Senior God of Swords. Then he carefully walked past the crowd and arrived at the cliff. Relying on his flying fan, he swayed and flew towards the horizon. Zhou Xuanji looked at Zhao Congjian and said, Check the loot. Zhao Congjian nodded. Long Yantian was just the beginning. Over the next few days, cultivators passed by this place. Most of them were attracted by the dragon eagles, Huang Lianxin and little Jiang Shui. In the end, some died, while others were injured. Zhou Xuanji's wealth began to grow exponentially. Apart from cultivators, there were also demon kings passing by. Most of them were only at the 4th rank, barely able to take human form. In the blink of an eye, another 3 months passed by. Zhao Congjian and Beixiao Wangjian had both mastered their sword techniques. The name of Sword God Zhou spread across the immortal Sundering mountain range. All the chosen ones knew that Sword God Zhou brought Zhao Congjian along to cultivate at the immortal Sundering mountain. Many sword cultivators began to search for Sword God Zhou. Even the unparalleled Zhao Congjian was willing to take Sword God Zhou as his master. How profound was Sword God Zhou's way of the sword? On this day, a young man in black flew past the cliff. He stopped abruptly and looked at the 2 dragon eagles before looking at Zhou Xuanji. The dragon eagle's cry pierces through the skies. The unparalleled Sword God Zhou, the body of a dwarf. That's him. The black-clothed youth immediately became excited, and he immediately landed on top of the mountain. Zhao Congjian and Beixiao Wangjian turned around and looked at him coldly. as though they were looking at their prey. At this moment, the black-clothed youth knelt down on the ground with a loud thud. He held back his excitement and cried out, "Sir Sword God, please take me as your disciple." Although he was not handsome, the black mole on his left eyebrow made it easy for people to remember him. Take him as a disciple? The group was stunned and could not understand the situation. Zhou Xuanji looked at him and asked, "Tell me your name." The black-clothed youth said, "My name is Fang Junsheng, ranked 19th on Great Zhou's hero ranking board. I have long heard of Sir Sword God's decisiveness in the way of the sword, dual sword wills, and 9-sword mode. Even the sword monarch of Great Zhou does not know that. I am here to be your disciple. As long as you agree, I can give up Great Zhou's heaven selection and follow you to roam the world." Zhou Xuanji frowned and said, "Are you stupid? Give up Great Zhou's heaven selection to follow him?" Zhou Xuanji could not understand it. Could it be that this person had other intentions? Fang Junsheng scratched his head and smiled. "Actually, I don't want to participate in Great Zhou's heaven selection. It was my family that forced me to. I wanted to leave my family a long time ago." Sword God Zhou appeared out of nowhere and had never tasted defeat. He even dared to reject the Sword Monarch's offer and burn the CS Sect sword library. He had long become someone who was respected by countless people, especially among the sword cultivators. Many were dissatisfied with the Sword Monarch of Great Zhou's fame and fortune. The appearance of Sword God Zhou gave them hope that the Sword Monarch of Great Zhou would be overthrown. Of course, it was only hope. Judging from his performance, Sword God Zhou was far from the Sword Monarch. Zhou Xuanji threw a glance at Zhao Congjian, who immediately understood and thrust his sword toward Fang Junsheng. Fang Junsheng understood that this was a test. He raised his spirits and drew his sword to meet the attack. The two of them exchanged blows on the mountaintop. Their swords clashed and sparks flew. It was very exciting. Little Jiang Shui, Northern Sword Valiant, Huang Lianxin, Big and Small Air, the three-eyed drought rodent, and the little black snake all looked over. At this moment, a silhouette leaped over the cliff and landed in front of Zhou Xuanji. Seeing him, Northern Sword Valiant's expression changed drastically. The little black snake hid behind the three-eyed drought rodent out of fear. It was Xiao Jinghong. He wore a white robe and a bamboo hat. With a sword in his hand, he looked like a wandering swordsman. He walked up to Zhou Xuanji and half knelt down. "Greetings, revered teacher." Zhou Xuanji was a little surprised and asked, "Why are you here?" Northern Sword Valiant and the little black snake swallowed their saliva. Although they knew that Xiao Jinghong was Zhou Xuanji's disciple, seeing it with their own eyes still shocked them greatly. Xiao Jinghong looked up and said with a smile, "There are still 2 more years before my duel with Meng Tianlang. I want to come here to continue my training and master dual sword wills." Zhao Congjian and Fang Junsheng, who were sparring, opened their eyes wide. Sword Noble, he was Sword God Zhou's disciple? Both of them were shocked, including Zhao Congjian. He thought that Northern Sword Valiant was bragging, but he did not expect it to be true. Xiao Jinghong ignored their gazes. He got up and said to Zhou Xuanji, "These years, I went to the depths of Gulan Forest and challenged the Gulan Demon Monarch. Unfortunately, I lost terribly and almost did not come back. But fortunately, I broke through to Astral Infant. If I master dual sword wills, Meng Tianlang will not be my match." Chapter 78. Break through to the nascent soul realm. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. This brat is so powerful. The cultivation realms of the human race, from low to high, were qi nourishing, foundation establishment, enlightening, inner Dan, spirit spring, and nascent soul. Once one reached the nascent soul realm, as long as they didn't encounter a great disaster, it wouldn't be a problem for them to live for 1,000 years. He asked, "Did you follow me and protect me in the dark?" Nodding his head, Xiao Jinghong sighed. "Master speed of improvement is something I'm far inferior to. Back then, when I had first met Zhou Xuanji, he was already devilish enough. Now, he had reached the 7th level of the enlightening realm at the age of 12. He was even more monstrous than Zhao Songjian and Zhou Yalong. Zhou Xuanji gestured for him to sit down, then waved at the three of them. Huang Lianxin and Beixiao Wangjian took the initiative to introduce themselves. Beixiao Wangjian looked at Xiao Jinghong with a complicated expression. Back then, he had lost to Northern Valiant Sword. Northern Sword Valiant, although you are not talented, you have good foresight. You will be fortunate in the future. Xiao Jinghong nodded at Northern Sword Valiant and smiled. His tone made Northern Sword Valiant very unhappy. Xiao Jinghong was Zhou Xuanji's disciple, while Beixiao Wangjian was a sword slave. Northern Sword Valiant snorted coldly. I'm already very fortunate. These words were spoken from the bottom of his heart. Following Zhou Xuanji, his sword technique had been improving. Every day was fulfilling, and he did not have to challenge other swordsmen like before to seek a breakthrough. Zhou Xuanji asked a few more questions, and Xiao Jinghong answered honestly. In the end, Xiao Jinghong smiled and said, "After I defeat Meng Tianlang, I will follow Master to roam the world." "Master, what is your goal?" "Target?" Zhou Xuanji could not help but think. After taking revenge, he planned to travel around the world. Therefore, he was filled with lofty sentiments and said with a smile, "There will be a day when 10,000 swords soar in the sky, and I will stand at the highest point." As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned. They thought of Zhou Xuanji's 10-sword mode. It turned out that 10 strikes was not his limit. His goal was 10,000 strikes. They imagined the scene and got goosebumps. Xiao Jinghong sighed. Master's idea is truly spectacular. Little Jiang Shui curled her lips and said, "He's invincible when he brags." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at her and said, "Just you wait. That day will come." The other side, Zhao Songjian defeated Fang Junsheng. Fang Junsheng looked defeated. Xiao Jinghong glanced at them and said, "This kid isn't worthy of being your disciple. He's more suitable to be a sword slave." When Fang Junsheng heard this, he wished he could find a hole to hide in. With Xiao Jinghong around, the threshold to become Zhou Xuanji's disciple was high, and he could not rebut. Zhou Xuanji looked at Fang Junsheng and asked, "You really want to follow me?" Fang Junsheng immediately ran over and knelt behind Zhou Xuanji. "Even if I become a sword slave, I'm willing. My path is the way of the sword, and my family can't give me much help. My family is not on good terms with the sword monarch of Great Zhou, and it's impossible for me to become his disciple, so I can only rely on you." Zhou Xuanji muttered, "Follow us for half a year first. Within half a year, if I'm not satisfied, you can leave." Fang Junsheng was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed toward Zhou Xuanji. Xiao Jinghong's lips curled upwards, but he didn't say anything. Zhao Songjian, on the other hand, stared at Xiao Jinghong with a burning desire to fight in his eyes. Beixiao Wangjian clenched his fists tightly in his sleeves. He had to work hard and couldn't always be at the bottom. The addition of Xiao Jinghong and Fang Junsheng made the group even livelier. From then on, Zhou Xuanji would teach Xiao Jinghong every day. Seeing how Xiao Jinghong humbly sought guidance in front of Zhou Xuanji, Zhao Songjian, Beixiao Wangjian, and Fang Junsheng were all stimulated. Zhou Xuanji's image in their hearts grew bigger. Half a month later, Zhao Songjian could not hold it in anymore and challenged Xiao Jinghong. In the end, he was defeated in less than 3 moves. Zhao Songjian, the undefeatable 3-sword moves. This title was so ear-piercing to Zhao Songjian. When my revered teacher was 6 years old, he defeated me with his sword techniques alone. Xiao Jinghong pointed his sword at Zhao Songjian's throat and said expressionlessly. Zhao Songjian's pupils contracted, and his expression turned bitter. Zhou Xuanji could not bear it anymore. He stared at Xiao Jinghong and said, "Don't bully me." Xiao Jinghong smiled and turned around to continue his training. Zhou Xuanji waved his hand at Zhao Songjian and said, "I will teach you how to manifest the sword will of the vibrant raindrop sword." Zhao Songjian heard him, and his eyes brightened. He immediately forgot about his unhappiness and walked quickly toward Zhou Xuanji. Under the tree, Fang Junsheng was building a house as he asked Beishao Wang Jian, who was training beside him, "Brother Beishao, how many sword techniques does Master know? I feel that he knows many types of sword wills." He really liked the atmosphere when Zhou Xuanji and the others trained. Other than little Jiang Shui, everyone enjoyed training their sword techniques. The positive atmosphere was infectious to him. Beishao Wangjian replied, "Master is unfathomable. It's not something that you and I can guess. Every sword technique that he knows, he can manifest the sword will." Zhou Xuanji's talent had already made him a god. Fang Junxing nodded and continued to build the house. He looked back occasionally. Little Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin were training in front of a big and small heir. Zhou Xuanji obtained many spells, enough for little Jiang Shui to train for a few hundred years. Ever since Xiao Jinghong joined, the little black snake became extremely well-behaved. It did not even speak a word. It was probably pretending to be an ordinary snake. The group did not expose it and intended to suffocate it to death. In a valley, countless snakes were gathered here in a dense mass. They were like a black ocean that surged endlessly, causing one to feel a chill run down one's spine. On a giant rock, two demons in human form stood. One was a man and the other was a woman. The man had an evil aura, while the woman had a bewitching charm. Their lower body was that of a snake, while their upper body wore clothes made of snakeskin. "Husband, are we really going to deal with Sword God Zhou? Until now, no one knows how powerful he is." The female demon frowned and asked worriedly. The male demon waved his hand and said proudly, "Who am I? I am Nanheng Snake Lord. Xia Wuyo is nothing in front of me with his cultivation of 5th rank level 10. And Sword God Zhou could not even deal with Xia Wuyo. He is not that powerful." 5th rank level 10 was equivalent to Soul Fountain level 10. Nanheng Snake Lord held the female demon's hand and comforted her. "Don't worry, my dear. As long as we can take down Sword God Zhou's head, I will bring you and our children away from Great Zhou. We will go to the demon race's territory and never participate in any conflicts." The female demon sighed. Her bewitching face was filled with sorrow. She said faintly, "The demon monarch is too much. Didn't he owe the Gulen demon monarch a demonic pellet back then? He sent us to kill Sword God Zhou because of this. We have no choice. Our demon monarch cares about morality the most." Nanheng Snake Lord shook his head and smiled. After that, he turned to look at the sea of snakes below. With a hideous smile, he shouted, "All of you, go and find Sword God Zhou's whereabouts. Remember what I told you before." After he spoke, all the snakes dashed toward different directions. They crawled all over the mountain walls, as though they were dyed with a layer of black. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the others had another uninvited guest. Seeing him, everyone's expression changed slightly. They did not attack immediately. The person was the second on Great Zhou's reputation ranking, Meng Tianlang. Meng Tianlang had already broken through to Astral Infant 4 years ago. He was one step faster than Xiao Jinghong, but he was much older than Xiao Jinghong. He wore Great Zhou's iron armor and rode on a fierce horse. The horse's hooves stepped on the clouds. "Xiao Jinghong." Meng Tianlang squinted his eyes and stared at Xiao Jinghong. The smile on his face disappeared quickly. He was here to look for Sword God Zhou, but he did not expect to meet his nemesis. Xiao Jinghong looked at him expressionlessly and did not make a sound. Their eyes met, and the atmosphere became heavy. Beishao Wangjian, Fang Junsheng, and Huang Lianxin were extremely nervous. Chapter 79. General Meng, long time no see. Zhou Xuanji said with a calm expression. He was thinking about how to reject Meng Tianlang. Meng Tianlang turned to look at him with a complicated expression. Sword God Zhou. Back then, Zhou Xuanji pretended to be a kid and lied to him. He lied that he was going to participate in Great Zhou's heaven selection and cheated him of his General Meng token. After that, Zhou Xuanji never went to Grey Zhou's camp. Meng Tianlang was furious, but he did not take it to heart. But today they found out that the kid was Sword God Zhou. Sword God Zhou was standing together with his archenemy, Xiao Jinghong. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Zhao Songjian stepped out and blocked in front of Zhou Xuanji. "Are you going to attack?" he asked. Facing Meng Tianlang, whose reputation was not inferior to that of the Sword Sovereign, he was eager to try. "You can leave," Zhou Xuanji said unpleasantly. This guy was always so impulsive. Meng Tianlang was not Xiao Jinghong. If they really fought, Zhao Songjian would definitely die. Zhao Songjian was indeed talented, but like Zhou Xuanji, he needed time. Clang! Xiao Jinghong raised his right hand, holding the sword in his hand. With a flick of his thumb, he pulled out the hilt of the sword, revealing half of the blade. He looked up at Meng Tianlang and said, "Sword God Zhou is my revered teacher. If you want to deal with him, ask the sword in my hand first." Meng Tianlang opened his eyes wide, somewhat not daring to believe his ears. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly threw his head back and laughed heartily, his hands clutching his stomach. "Xiao Jinghong. Oh, Xiao Jinghong, you actually acknowledge such a kid as your master? Are you King possessed?" Meng Tianlang laughed angrily, and his tone contained a tone of exasperation that Chun-Shi didn't live up to his expectations. He saw Xiao Jinghong as his lifelong rival, and Xiao Jinghong's actions made him feel humiliated. Xiao Jinghong remained expressionless. "What are you laughing at? Do you know how powerful my master is? Frog at the bottom of a well, short-sighted." Meng Tianlang stopped smiling and said, "He's only in the enlightening realm. How powerful can he be?" Zhou Xuanji's qi obscuring incantation was not omnipotent. Meng Tianlang was at the astral infant stage and could see through his cultivation at a glance. How could Zhou Xuanji allow him to continue humiliating him? "You look down on me. How about this? Since you have a high cultivation, do you dare to take my sword head-on? If you come out unscathed, I'll admit defeat, and I'll give you the 2 dragon eagles. If I win, you'll be my slave. Do you dare?" Zhou Xuanji said. With these words, everyone's gaze fell on him. "Master!" Zhao Songjian wanted to say something but stopped. Meng Tianlang was at the astral infant stage, which was 3 stages lower than Zhou Xuanji. How could he defeat him? Xiao Jinghong looked at Zhou Xuanji in astonishment. Huang Lianxin, Beixiao Wangjian, and Fang Junsheng were too nervous to speak. Little Jiang Shui looked at Zhou Xuanji in silence. "This is insane." The little black snake hid behind the 3-eyed drought rodent and muttered to itself. Meng Tianlang frowned, feeling that something was wrong. "This brat is so fearless. Where does he get his confidence from?" "What? You're the great Zhou cavalry general. Are you afraid?" Zhou Xuanji said with a smile, provoking Meng Tianlang on purpose. "Damn it! How can this brat be so eloquent?" Meng Tianlang cursed in his heart. Last time he was fooled by this brat. Now that he thought about it, he blushed and wanted to beat Zhou Xuanji up. Xiao Jinghong raised his brow and said, "Of course he doesn't dare to. He can't afford to lose." Meng Tianlang heard him and snorted coldly. "Then bring it on. I have another request. Only you can fight." He was also afraid that Zhou Xuanji was up to something. Zhou Xuanji took out the furious ape sword and said, "I will rely on this sword." Everyone looked at it and was shocked. Such a handsome sword. Meng Tianlang heaved a sigh of relief. This sword was indeed powerful, but it was still a pipe dream to threaten him. He had his own powerful enchanted artifact. Why should he be afraid? Brat, your standards are still too low. You have never experienced the sky of the astral infant stage. Meng Tianlang thought to himself with a cold smile. He immediately took out his broadsword and said with a smile, "Come on, your dragon eagles are mine." Thinking about how he humiliated Xiao Jinghong's revered teacher, he felt so good. Xiao Jinghong walked to the side and looked at Zhou Xuanji calmly. At this moment, he suddenly thought of what happened 6 years ago. The current situation was so similar to what happened back then. Zhou Xuanji pointed his sword at Meng Tianlang and said, "Don't regret. "Don't dodge." Meng Tianlang leaped up and landed on the edge of the cliff. He stood proudly and said, "If I regret, I'm your son. If I dodge, I'm your grandson." "What a grandson!" Zhou Xuanji smiled and immediately channeled his spirit energy into the furious ape sword. In that instant, the furious ape sword trembled slightly, but there was no unusual phenomenon. Zhou Xuanji could sense that the furious ape sword was already charging up. It contained an extremely powerful force. Meng Tianlang was all smiles. He did not even place his broadsword horizontally in front of him and waited for Zhou Xuanji to attack. The others looked at Zhou Xuanji anxiously. The two of them were 10 meters apart. This distance was already very close for them. Even a big and small air were observing. Zhou Xuanji held the sword with his right hand and channeled his spirit energy into it. His eyes were fixed on Meng Tianlang. Meng Tianlang looked calm and collected, but he was sweating in his heart. This kid is so confident. It must be a powerful sword technique. He had heard about the legend of Sword God Zhou before, so he was on his guard and was afraid that Zhou Xuanji would suddenly take out the other 8 swords. The two of them looked at each other with confidence written all over their faces. 1 breath's time, 2 breaths' time, 3 breaths' time. A gust of cold wind blew, which made the atmosphere even more silent. No one dared to blink, afraid that they would miss something. A while later, Meng Tianlang's smile froze. He could not hold it in anymore and said with a deep voice, "Kid, are you going to attack or not? Why are you in such a hurry? Are you afraid?" Zhou Xuanji asked calmly. As he spoke, he was still internalizing qi and absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi. Multitasking. That was his talent. Meng Tianlang snorted coldly. "Me? Afraid? Then I will wait for you. I want to see what tricks you have up your sleeves." He understood in his heart that this kid wanted to attack him when he was not on guard. Back then, when he first joined the army, he could do the horse stance for 16 hours. When was he ever afraid? The two of them looked at each other again. Time continued to pass. After half an hour, little Jiang Shui could not hold it in anymore and sat on the ground. The others followed suit. It was too torturous. They were not afraid that Meng Tianlang would defeat Zhou Xuanji. Xiao Jinghong was here anyway. Xiao Jinghong was also a little confused. What was his master waiting for? He noticed that the surrounding spiritual qi was flowing into Zhou Xuanji's body, but it was not as fast as Zhou Xuanji's internalization of qi, so he did not take it to heart. An hour later, Meng Tianlang's face was gloomy. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he gnashed his teeth. How much longer does this kid have to wait? I'm of the nascent soul realm. I'm going to exhaust you to death. Zhou Xuanji continued to stare at him expressionlessly. Under this kind of gaze, Meng Tianlang did not speak, in case he appeared to lose his composure. 2 hours. For hours. Dusk came and the moon rose. Good lad. How ruthless. Meng Tianlang thought to himself as he stared at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji was also looking at him. Xiao Jinghong had already sat down. He was not far from Zhou Xuanji and was protecting him. The others gathered around the fire and began to eat. Fang Junxing sighed. Both seniors are ruthless. Bei Xiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxi nodded, their faces filled with emotions. It was their first time witnessing a duel like this. Little Jiang Shui turned around and shouted, "Do you want to eat first before continuing?" "Eat? How can it be? I'm accumulating my energy." Zhou Xuanji shouted. "In a duel, we must focus. In a battle between powerful cultivators, victory or defeat is decided in an instant. I'm looking for his flaws, and so is he. If I eat now, won't I be disrespecting him and not worthy of being called a powerful cultivator?" Meng Tianlang, who was about to eat, heard him and immediately gave up on the idea. He laughed coldly. "Kid, you have a backbone. I will fight you to the end and make you admit defeat." Chapter 80. It was late at night, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. The roars of demons could be heard from time to time, which added a sense of horror to the night. On the top of the mountain, before the cliff, Zhou Xuanji and Meng Tianlang were still facing off. The bone-chilling wind blew. The others were already in the state of cultivation, and only the two of them were still standing. To prevent Meng Tianlang from attacking, Zhou Xuanji said, "Very good. You are indeed great, Zhou's cavalry general. I have a whole new level of respect for your endurance." Meng Tianlang was brave and smart. Although he could tell that Zhou Xuanji was up to no good, he cared about his reputation and was confident in his power. So he was in a stalemate with Zhou Xuanji. Facing Zhou Xuanji's compliment, he said with disdain, "How can you know the fierce battles that I, Meng Tianlang, have been through?" Xiao Jinghong could not help but shake his head. Meng Tianlang was good at everything, except that he paid too much attention to his morals. He would not break his promise. This was also the reason why Xiao Jinghong saw him as a lifelong enemy. But Zhou Xuanji was too cunning. He saw through Meng Tianlang with one look and forced Meng Tianlang to not dare step down. Now, Xiao Jinghong was curious about what Zhou Xuanji would do. Could he be waiting for Meng Tianlang to let his guard down and attack suddenly? But even so, it was extremely difficult to hurt Meng Tianlang. Meng Tianlang was not at inner pellet or soul fountain, but astral infant. No matter how powerful a sword technique was, it could not surpass 3 stages. Moreover, Meng Tianlang was not an ordinary person. He was extremely talented in battle. Time continued to pass. The moon set and the sun rose. When the first ray of sunlight came from the horizon, Zhou Xuanji had less than a quarter of his spirit energy left in his body. Even though he had been internalizing qi, it could not be compared to the speed at which he channeled his spirit energy. He thought to himself, "Is the spirit energy in the furious ape sword enough?" Seeing that he was frowning, Meng Tianlang thought that he was panicking, so he laughed coldly. "What? You can't find my weakness? Admit defeat and give me the dragon eagle." Zhou Xuanji said with a deep voice, "I have not drawn my sword, so the outcome is not decided yet. If you are impatient, you can cancel the agreement. If you break it, don't even think about getting my dragon eagle." Meng Tianlang heard him and snorted. "The art of war says that it is better to adapt to the situation and wait for opportunities to come. I have been leading and fighting for many years. How can you compare to my patience?" Compared to the dragon eagle, he wanted to surpass Xiao Jinghong more. If he defeated Zhou Xuanji, he would have defeated Xiao Jinghong. "All right, let's continue. You said that if you regret it, you're my son. If you avoid it, you're my grandson." Zhou Xuanji pretended to be heroic and shouted. He could not help but glance at Xiao Jinghong. If Xiao Jinghong wasn't here, he wouldn't be able to provoke Meng Tianlang like this. The two of them continued to be in a deadlock. 2 hours. For hours. Noon came. Northern Valiant Sword and Zhao Songjian started to practice their swordsmanship, while Feng Junsheng waited eagerly. Xiao Jinghong had been sitting near Zhou Xuanji to support him. In the afternoon, 2 cultivators flew past the cliff. When they saw Zhou Xuanji and Meng Tianlang, they were stunned. "That's Meng Tianlang, General Meng," one of them exclaimed. They were all chosen ones and had seen Meng Tianlang before. The two of them turned to look at Zhou Xuanji. There were no children in the immortal Severing mountain range. It could only be the unparalleled Sword God Zhou. General Meng and Sword God Zhou are confronting each other? The other person cried out. The two of them immediately flew to a nearby mountain and looked at the battle. They were very excited. No matter if it was Sword God Zhou or Meng Tianlang, they were both famous people. Their battle would surely be exciting. However, they watched for a long time, but neither of them made a move. "What are they doing?" One of them mumbled. The other person rubbed his chin and said mysteriously, "In a battle between powerful cultivators, victory or defeat is usually decided in an instant. They are looking for their opponent's flaws. Once they make a move, victory or defeat will be decided." The two of them held their breaths and waited quietly. Time ticked by. 6 hours later, more cultivators passed by and joined the crowd of spectators. Far away, on a mountaintop, 2 giant snakes coiled around the mountain wall and transformed into Nanheng Snake Lord and his wife. Nanheng Snake Lord frowned and mumbled, "Why is Meng Tianlang here?" He could not defeat Meng Tianlang. Among the demons, Meng Tianlang's cultivation was equivalent to a 6th-rank Great Demon King. The Snake Lady said anxiously, "Then we cannot attack." Hearing Meng Tianlang's name, she was so frightened that her tail could not stand steadily. She did not agree to kill Sword God Zhou in the first place, and she would not agree even more now. Nanheng Snake Lord nodded and said, "Let's watch first. Maybe Meng Tianlang would kill Zhou Xuanji, and he would take the opportunity to decapitate him." Time passed. The sun set and the moon rose. Night fell again. Zhou Xuanji's spirit energy was almost depleted, so he reduced the speed at which he accumulated energy. After a day and a night, the surging energy contained in the furious ape sword shocked even him. Of course, he was the only one who could sense it. Even Meng Tianlang and Xiao Jinghong, who were at the astral infant stage, could not sense the energy contained in the furious ape sword. "It's not enough. Hold on. When this guy can't hold it any longer, I will attack." Zhou Xuanji thought to himself, but he was still looking at Meng Tianlang. Meng Tianlang could sense the will to fight in his eyes and was in awe of this guy's perseverance. The two continued to confront each other. The moon set and the sun rose. The third day came. The spectating cultivators were a little tired. They all internalized qi and observed. Last night, someone used a spell to spread the news. Just as the sun rose, 6 cultivators came and joined the spectators. "It's really General Meng. Why does he want to fight Sword God Zhou?" Although the two of them did not fight, this silent scene makes me feel like I'm suffocating. I heard that they have been confronting each other for a few days and have yet to fight. Such determination, can you guys do it? Is the one beside Sword God Zhou the Sword Noble? Wait, the Sword Noble? The cultivators discussed among themselves. Soon, someone recognized Xiao Jinghong, which made them even more excited. The Sword Noble, Meng Tianlang, and Sword God Zhou, the 3 majestic and powerful cultivators, gathered together. They cast their spells and spread the news. In the next few days, more and more people knew about this. Even the royal family and generals were alerted. More and more people came to the cliff where Zhou Xuanji and the others were. 6 days later, Zhou Qingxin, Princess Xuanya, and the other princes arrived one after another. Seeing Zhou Xuanji, Zhou Qingxin sighed in amazement. "Sir Zhou is so powerful. He faced General Meng so quickly." So this was what he meant by Great Zhou's heaven selection. Well, with his power, there is no need for him to participate in Great Zhou's heaven selection. Princess Xuanya, who was not far away, also looked at Zhou Xuanji with admiration. Ever since she met Zhou Xuanji, she felt that the whole world was talking about him. He was so dazzling. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji's hands began to tremble. It was not because he was tired, but because the energy contained in the furious ape sword was too powerful. Meng Tianlang sensed that more and more people were gathering around him. At this moment, he could not make the first move. When he saw Zhou Xuanji's trembling right hand, he could not help but laugh. "Brat, are you getting tired?" Zhou Xuanji's forehead was covered in sweat. "I will get tired?" Meng Tianlang laughed coldly. Another 2 days passed. Zhou Xuanji's legs began to tremble. Meng Tianlang mocked, "Admit defeat. I'm filled with energy. You can't beat me." Zhou Xuanji stared at him. His face was covered in cold sweat. He pretended to be calm and said, "I'm going to attack." Meng Tianlang's body trembled. He understood that Zhou Xuanji could no longer find his weakness, so he decided to give it his all. He laughed and said, "You are going to attack now? It seems like you have miscalculated. If you knew this, you should have attacked straight away." Chapter 81. The conversation between Zhou Xuanji and Meng Tianlang was heard by all the spectators. Little Jiang Shui, Zhao Songjian, and the others even got up and watched nervously. Sword God Zhou is going to draw his sword. It's finally starting. I've waited for 10 days. Looking at Sword God Zhou, he might not be able to defeat General Meng. Not necessarily. Maybe it's a big move. Who will win? The spectators discussed animatedly with their eyes wide open. They didn't dare to blink for fear of missing the most exciting moment. Zhou Qingxin was also worried for Zhou Xuanji. His relationship with Meng Tianlang was not very good. In comparison, Zhou Xuanji was easier to rope in, so he hoped that Zhou Xuanji would win. He had helped Zhou Xuanji before. If Zhou Xuanji's fame grew, people would definitely mention him and add to his good name. In the distance, Nanheng Snake Lord and his wife transformed into two little snakes and watched from afar. "Husband, who do you think will win?" The lamia asked curiously. It was the first time she had seen someone confront each other for so long on the eve of a battle. Nanheng Snake Lord muttered, "It should be Meng Tianlang, ranked second on Great Zhou's reputation ranking. His talent in battle goes without saying. Although Sword God Zhou's background is mysterious, he looks like an arrow at the end of its flight." Most of the spectators believed that Meng Tianlang would win. Meng Tianlang behaved calmly, but when he looked at Sword God Zhou, his legs were trembling and his forehead was covered in sweat. When the two of them stood together, it was easy for others to judge. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He was very excited. He was also very perturbed. He was afraid that this sword strike would kill Meng Tianlang. "Don't forget what you said. Don't hide." Zhou Xuanji smiled and reminded him again. Meng Tianlang said disdainfully, Meng Tianlang, have always kept my word. I'd rather die than regret it." Xiao Jinghong also fixed his gaze on Zhou Xuanji. He wanted to see what sword technique Zhou Xuanji was going to use. Zhou Xuanji stared at Meng Tianlang and said, "This sword technique is called Tempest Slash. I learned it from a CS sword library. It's Earth grade low tier, and it's the most powerful sword technique in the sword library." With so many people watching, he naturally had to insult the CS sect. After saying that, he directly entered the sword intense state of the Tempest Slash. Great wind rise. Hoo-hoo! Zhou Xuanji's black robe danced in the wind around him, forming a small tornado visible to the naked eye. Everyone held their breaths and focused, waiting for Zhou Xuanji to attack. Sword intent? Meng Tianlang narrowed his eyes. This brat managed to cultivate the sword intent of the Tempest Slash so quickly. No wonder he could become Xiao Jinghong's master. "No one can stand before my sword. Meng Tianlang. Your reputation will not be tarnished if you are defeated by this sword, because the one who defeated you is me." Zhou Xuanji laughed out loud suddenly. His left hand descended swiftly, and with both hands on his sword, he slashed furiously. Tempest Skybreaker Slash. Roar! The furious roar of the ancient ape was earth-shattering. A terrifying sword energy visible to the naked eye shot towards Meng Tianlang. In front of this sword energy, Meng Tianlang seemed so tiny. In an instant, Meng Tianlang and Xiao Jinghong were visibly moved. This is Xiao Jinghong's eyes widened in excitement. Meng Tianlang was even more shocked and immediately slashed with his saber. A loud boom resounded. Meng Tianlang's saber was broken, and his body was sent flying away by the sword chi. His armor was shattered, and blood splattered everywhere. He flew out nearly 1,000 meters with extreme speed and smashed into a small mountain. Crushed rocks flew everywhere. The white sword chi, which was 30 meters long, was like a crescent moon in the sky. It was accompanied by the furious roar of the ancient ape, which shook everyone's heart. The cliff in front of Zhou Xuanji crumbled immediately. The sword chi left hundreds of tiny cracks on the ground. A violent gale blew between the heavens and the earth, which made the forest below look like a green ocean with raging waves. This slash used up all of his stamina and spirit energy. His legs gave way, and he quickly stabbed his sword into the ground to support his body. Silence. The entire world was silent. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Everyone looked at Zhou Xuanji in disbelief. That slash just now made everyone tremble in fear. especially the furious roar of the ancient ape, which almost scared them out of their wits. Zhou Xuanji panted with his sword in hand. He tried his best to stand up straight. At this moment, he had to hold on. Oh my! This legendary sword is too ferocious. If I accumulate my energy for a few years, can I destroy Great Zhou? Zhou Xuanji exclaimed in his heart. Suddenly, he had a bold idea, which was to stay near the Great Zhou Royal Palace and accumulate energy every day. After half a year, he would slash the Great Zhou Royal Palace in half a year. There's a chance, but he was not sure how powerful Emperor Yan of Zhou was. Maybe half a year was not enough? No matter what, the Furious Ape Sword was already his most powerful legendary sword. In terms of destructive power, it was limitless. Little Jiang Shui immediately pounced over and hugged Zhou Xuanji. She was very excited and cried out continuously, "So powerful! So powerful!" She looked excited, but she was actually supporting Zhou Xuanji. Being hugged by her, Zhou Xuanji did not fall, but felt more relaxed. Zhao Songjian, Beixiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, and Fang Junxin walked over. They were so excited that they could not speak coherently. The little black snake laid on the three-eyed drought rodent's head and was dumbfounded. Did I see it wrong? This brat is definitely the reincarnation of an ancient demon. So terrifying, it mumbled. Xiao Jinghong was stunned on the spot. He seemed to be in a daze. He could not stop replaying the slash just now in his mind. Stunning, domineering, unstoppable. He was thinking, if it was him, would he be able to block that slash directly? The other spectators came back to their senses and cried out in surprise. Oh my god, that slash just now. CS Sek's sword technique is so powerful. Sword God Zhou is too powerful. Meng Tianlang could not even withstand a single blow from him. Meng Tianlang did not dodge. That slash is too powerful. It totally matches the title of Sword God. Most of them were extremely excited, as though they were Sword God Zhou themselves. Great Zhou's generals and princes flew toward Meng Tianlang. They did not want him to die here. With Meng Tianlang's talent, it would not be difficult for him to become a first-rank general. Losing Meng Tianlang was like losing a pillar for Great Zhou. Zhou Qingxin and Princess Xuanyao flew toward Zhou Xuanji. Master, when can I learn the Tempest Slash? Zhao Tsongjian held back his excitement and asked. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and smiled. That day will come. It's a pity that you don't have the Furious Ape Sword. Even if you master the Tempest Slash to the extreme, you will not be as graceful as me. Under the crowd's encirclement, Zhou Xuanji quickly took out a bottle of pills and poured them into his mouth to prevent others from seeing. Sir Zhou, you are so graceful. Zhou Qingxin's voice came from behind Beixiao Wangjian. Princess Xuanyao followed behind him, and she was looking at Zhou Xuanji charmingly. Zhou Xuanji looked calm and said, Seventh Prince, why are you here? Zhou Qingxin smiled and said, The competition between you and General Meng has spread throughout the Great Zhou's heaven selection. How can I not come take a look? Zhou Xuanji nodded and did not speak anymore. He began to recuperate his qi and blood. He mumbled in his heart, Please don't let Meng Tianlang die. He was quite fond of such a powerful fighter. The cultivators who were watching from afar also wanted to befriend Zhou Xuanji. But when Xiao Jinghong drew his sword, all of them retreated like frightened birds. On the other side, on a small mountain, the two snakes were silent. Husband, the snake lady asked. Nanheng Snake Lord said, My wife, you don't have to say much. I understand. After that, the two snakes quickly climbed down and disappeared into the forest. Chapter 82. Nanheng Snake Lord left with his wife dejectedly, not attracting any attention. Meng Tianlang, who was embedded in the mountain, was carried out. His entire body was covered in blood, his hair was in a mess, and he looked extremely miserable. If not for the rise and fall of his chest, one would have thought that he was already dead. One of the generals asked nervously, General Meng, are you all right? Meng Tianlang raised his head with great difficulty. His face was covered in blood, and his eyes revealed shock and horror. I've been tricked. How is this a competition of patience? This kid was purposely trying to make him relax. At this moment, Meng Tianlang wished that he was already dead. Thinking about becoming Zhou Xuanji's slave, he spat out a mouthful of blood onto the general in front of him. Zhou Xuanji had already seen Meng Tianlang's miserable state. He smiled and said, I'm going to have another sword slave. Northern Sword Valiant grinned and said, It should be Dao Nu. Zhou Chengxin and Princess Xuanya were both curious. What did Zhou Xuanji mean? Zhao Congjian's relationship with Zhou Chengxin was not bad, so he explained it to him. When the two great Zhou royal family members heard this, their expressions became strange. If Meng Tianlang became Zhou Xuanji's servant, the Emperor of Great Zhou, Emperor Yin of Zhou, would be furious. After all, Emperor Yin of Zhou had high hopes for Meng Tianlang. Zhou Chengxin wanted to remind Zhou Xuanji, but he felt that it was not the right time to make sarcastic remarks, so he could only hold it in. Soon, Great Zhou's generals and princes helped Meng Tianlang to the top of the mountain. All of them looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously and wanted to tear him into pieces. Meng Tianlang stood up with difficulty. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said with gritted teeth, Shameless brat, you tricked me. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, How? You? Meng Tianlang wanted to say something, but he did not know where to start. Zhou Xuanji only used the furious ape sword, and no one else helped him. Everything was within the agreement. But he was so aggrieved. The injuries all over his body told him that he had really lost. Zhou Xuanji purposely frowned and said unhappily, Meng Tianlang, you want to go back on your word? In his heart, he was already rolling with laughter. It felt so good. Who asked you to look down on me? In the future, I'll make you follow behind me and call me master every day. Meng Tianlang was exasperated and didn't know what to say. At this moment, he noticed that Xiao Jinghong was frowning. He was instantly enraged and roared, I'm a man of my word. Just you wait. After this great Zhou's heaven selection, I'll resign from my position as a general and work like a slave for you. Go. The surrounding generals and princes jumped in fright when they heard that. Meng Tianlang wanted to resign from his position as a general and join Sword God Zhou. They hurriedly asked as they supported Meng Tianlang away. To the generals, Meng Tianlang was a rare genius on the battlefield. For the princes, if they could rope in Meng Tianlang, they would be closer to the throne. After they left, Zhou Chengxin couldn't help but sigh. General Meng, a single mistake brings everlasting sorrow. He muttered in his heart. Wasn't Meng Tianlang very smart? Why did he suddenly become stupid? He even dared to compete in such a bet. Now he had failed miserably. Zhou Xuanji smiled. After the pill entered his body, he had the strength to stand up straight. It seemed that he would have to be more careful when using the furious ape sword in the future. He didn't want to ruin himself. Too strong. Too strong. Fang Junxing clenched his fists. He was so excited that he could not control himself, as though he was injected with chicken blood. After Zhou Chengxin chatted with Zhou Xuanji for a while, he left with Princess Xuanya, who was in a love-struck state. As the spectators left, the cliff quieted down again. Little Jiang Shui wrapped her arms around his neck and said meaningfully, The way that princess looked at you just now, it was as though flowers were blooming. Zhou Xuanji curled his lip and said unpleasantly, Have you forgotten who I am? Little Jiang Shui heard him and realized that he was right. Zhou Xuanji was also a prince of Great Zhou, which was equivalent to Princess Xuanya's younger brother. She immediately beamed with joy and went to feed the dragon eagles. Xiao Jinghong walked over and took a deep breath. That slash just now was definitely not the power of an earth-grade sword technique. Revered teacher, can you teach me? Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, Learn the dual sword wills first. Haste makes waste. There will be plenty of time and opportunities to learn other sword techniques in the future. Xiao Jinghong nodded, as though he was enlightened. In the next month, the news of Sword God Zhou severely injuring Meng Tianlang with a single strike, swept across the immortal Sundering Mountain and the entire Great Zhou. Meng Tianlong's fame had been in the top 50 of Great Zhou's reputation, ranking for a long time, and he was ranked second on Great Zhou's hero ranking board. He was a sharp blade that could protect Great Zhou's future, and even Emperor Yin of Zhou praised him. Such a powerful cultivator could not even block a single strike from Sword God Zhou, and almost died. In an instant, the name of Sword God Zhou was spread like wildfire. He had even surpassed Sword Monarch Xiao Jinghong. Zhou Xuanji and the others, who were in the immortal Sundering Mountain range, did not know any of this. Zhou Xuanji continued to cultivate day after day. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Songjian, Bei Xiao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin trained even harder after witnessing Zhou Xuanji slash. Little Jiang Shui was also trying her best to internalize qi, charging towards the enlightening state. As Fang Junxing watched them practice, he would also follow suit. As time passed, his understanding of the Sword Dao also increased. On this day, Zhou Xuanji easily broke through to enlightening level 8. He was getting closer to the inner pellet realm. Zhao Songjian only broke through to inner pellet at the age of 18, and he was already crowned as the only one in history. Zhou Xuanji's goal was to break through to inner pellet before the age of 15. Judging from the current situation, it was not a difficult task. In front of the cliff, Xiao Jinghong held 2 swords in his hands and used 2 different sword techniques. He looked very impressive. He still had not mastered dual sword wills, but the speed at which he switched between his sword wills was much faster than before. Zhou Xuanji stood at the side and nodded occasionally. This disciple of his had good comprehension. He estimated that he would be able to master dual sword wills in less than half a year. Zhao Songjian ran over and said respectfully, "Master, the 36th Path Jade Xiao sword has many transformations. There is something I don't understand." "Speak." Zhou Xuanji nodded and listened to Zhao Songjian's questions. He sighed in his heart. How are they sword slaves? They're all disciples, but he quite liked the process of nurturing them. What's the fun of traveling the world alone? With sword slaves, disciples, and maidservants, I could travel anywhere in the world. Whoever dares to cause trouble, sword slaves go. After Zhao Songjian's questions were answered, he left in satisfaction and continued to practice. Zhou Xuanji turned around and asked, "Will Meng Tianlang really keep his word?" Xiao Jinghong replied as he practiced, "Of course, but the Meng clan and the great Zhou royal family might not agree to it. He needs time to settle everything. A year later, we will have a battle. He can't run away." Zhou Xuanji nodded. If he were Emperor Yin of Zhou, how could he let go of such a talent? Shortly after, he continued his cultivation in peace and could not be bothered to think about this. 4 days later, he celebrated his 13th birthday. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 13 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations. The sword owner obtained gold water-driving sword, white dragon golden robe, 300 pieces of 3rd-grade spirit stones. The sword spirit's voice came as expected. Zhou Xuanji, who was internalizing qi, opened his eyes. Another gold-grade legendary sword. Now, he had 5 gold-grade legendary swords. They were the Hell King sword, Thunderclap sword, Bloodbath sword, Furious Ape sword, and this water-driving sword. Good luck. Chapter 83. Zhou Xuanji took out the water-driving sword. The sword was silver-white in color, with ripple patterns on the blade. It was very beautiful, and it was 1 meters long. It felt light in his hand. Not bad. 3 lines of words appeared in front of his eyes. Sword name, water-driving sword grade. Gold description. With this legendary sword, one can control all water in the world. The range of control is proportional to the sword owner's power. Control all water in the world? Incredible. The water-driving sword could not only be used in battle, but it might have other uses in the future. Zhou Xuanji held the water-driving sword and practiced the white crane sword technique. After familiarizing himself with it, he sheathed the sword. The others were cultivating on their own and did not notice that he had another legendary sword. He opened his hands, and the white dragon golden robe appeared in his hands. Just like the verdant full cloud riding boots, once the owner was recognized, the robe would change according to his size and fit comfortably. After changing into the white dragon golden robe, his entire aura changed. On the clean white robe, there were golden dragons drawn with golden patterns. They were vivid and lifelike. As the saying goes, clothes make the man, while the saddle makes the man. After putting on the white dragon golden robe, Zhou Xuanji's royal aura was displayed. His face was as clear as jade, and he had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His black hair was tied up at the back of his head, making him look lively and handsome. He did not lose out to the princes of Great Zhou. Little Jiang Shui, who was internalizing qi in front of small air, saw him and immediately ran over. The others also noticed that Zhou Xuanji had changed his clothes. After they saw him, they all praised him in their hearts. What young man! Xiao Jinghong frowned suddenly. For some reason, he felt that Zhou Xuanji looked like another person. Zhou, 13 years old. Could it be? Xiao Jinghong suddenly thought of something and could not help but be moved. Fang Junsheng, who was chopping wood, praised loudly, Master, you are so wise and mighty. Northern Valiant Sword rolled his eyes. Can this brat be more serious in his bootlicking? Fang Junsheng was in the top 30 of Great Zhou's hero ranking board after all. He was at Inner Pellet and was more powerful than Northern Valiant Sword. But in front of Northern Valiant Sword, he always had to bow and bow. If there were no accidents, Fang Junsheng would become Zhou Xuanji's sword slave sooner or later. So Northern Valiant Sword's attitude became better and better. He did not even bother to scold him anymore. Little Jiang Shui moved closer to Zhou Xuanji and sized him up. She nodded continuously. You're getting more and more handsome. God bless you, you didn't grow too old. Little Jiang Shui pinched Zhou Xuanji's cheeks and smiled happily. Zhou Xuanji glared at her and said unpleasantly, Of course. In the future, not only will I be the top swordsman in the world, but I'll also be the top commander in the world. Little Jiang Shui covered her mouth and chuckled. Yes, yes, yes. You're the most handsome. She suddenly thought of something and became discouraged. With a bitter face, she said, Your clothes are really beautiful. I'm afraid the clothes I knitted for you can't compare. Zhou Xuanji comforted her. It's okay. I understand your intentions. Don't knit any more in the future, lest it hurts your hands. After the age of 12, his height began to increase by leaps and bounds. Now, he was already at little Jiang Shui's eyebrows. He looked at the 17-year-old Jiang Shui. No, Jiang Shui. Zhou Xuanji was filled with amazement. The flower finally bloomed. Jiang Shui felt regret and disappointment. But when she looked up and met Zhou Xuanji's gaze, the gentleness in his eyes made her disappointment disappear immediately. She smiled sweetly and said, I'll listen to you. The two of them stood at the edge of the cliff and began to chat. They talked about the jokes of the past and their hopes for the future. As they chatted, the two of them sat at the edge of the cliff. Jiang Shui could not change her bad habit. Once she got close to Zhou Xuanji, she could not help but feel up to him. And so, she wrapped her arms around Zhou Xuanji's neck. Zhou Xuanji said helplessly, In another year, your arms will get sore if you hug me like this. Jiang Shui smiled without a care. It's okay. You can hug me when the time comes. Hey, don't you understand? Men and women should not touch each other. We're all grown up. Hey, why are you talking to me about this? Don't we always sleep in the same room? Okay, from today onwards, let's sleep in separate rooms. You dare. The two of them began to quarrel, and the others were envious of them. Northern Sword Valiant sighed. Back then, I had a childhood friend like him too. Fang Junsheng asked curiously, What about now? Gone. Northern Sword Valiant replied calmly. After that, he turned around and left, leaving Fang Junsheng with a lonely and bleak silhouette. This was a man with a story. Fang Junsheng rubbed his chin and thought. Time passed quickly. Another 5 months had passed. Zhou Xuanji broke through to enlightening level 9 and the first stage of the Great Zhou Heaven selection came to an end. Following the shocking news of Sword God Zhou defeating Meng Tianlang, the cultivators who passed by the cliff dared not to cause trouble. Even the demon kings did not dare to get close. However, the peace was still broken. This day, a group of soldiers came on a cloud. There was a carriage on top of it. The carriage was luxurious and luxurious. It was more than 3 times the size of an ordinary carriage and looked like a small building. Zhao, Songyin, Xiao, Jinghong, Northern Sword Valiant, and the others gathered around Zhou Xuanji. Great Zhou's Meng clan's flag. It should be Meng Tianlong's elder, Xiao Jinghong said softly. The leader of the soldiers held a huge flag with the word Meng carved on it. Zhou Xuanji squinted his eyes and did not speak. Soon, the Meng clan soldiers stopped in front of the cliff. The curtain of the carriage was pulled open, and a middle-aged man wearing a black robe with python patterns walked out slowly. His sideburns were like fire, his body was muscular, and he had a stocky build. Just by standing there, he gave people a strong sense of oppression. He stared at Zhou Xuanji and said, "You are Sword God Zhou?" Zhou Xuanji asked, "Who are you?" "Meng clan, Meng Changhu, Great Zhou's second-ranked general king. I feel that the bet between my nephew, Tianlang, and you should be discussed at length, so I came specially." The middle-aged man in black leaped up and landed in front of Zhou Xuanji and the others. His boldness was even stronger than Meng Tianlong's. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Songjian, and Northern Sword Valiant were all prepared for battle. Fang Junxing lowered his head and hid behind Huang Lianxin. He did not dare to look at Meng Changhu directly. "I wasn't the one who forced him to make this bet," Zhou Xuanji said casually, which made Meng Changhu frown. He frowned, and the pressure grew stronger. He looked at Zhou Xuanji's face carefully. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. "If you have any requests, just tell me," Meng Changhu said calmly, but his eyes flickered with a strange look. "There's no room for discussion," Zhou Xuanji replied. "If he let this go, he would lose face." "Okay." Meng Changhu flicked his sleeves and turned around. He pointed at Fang Junsheng and said, "You come here. Follow me home. If your father knew that you are such a coward, your wives and concubines can forget about living." Fang Junsheng heard him, and his expression changed drastically. He could only grit his teeth and walk up to him. Meng Changhu grabbed his shoulder and flew up to the clouds. Zhou Xuanji did not stop him. Fang Junsheng was not his sword slave yet, and Meng Changhu was not Fang Junsheng's enemy. He had no reason to stop him. Meng Changhu walked into the carriage, and the soldiers left on the clouds. "Prince Xuanji, His Majesty was right. You will be the top prodigy in Great Zhou's history. You have perfectly inherited the royal bloodline of Great Zhou. But I have to give you a piece of advice. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind." Meng Changhu's voice came suddenly, and Zhou Xuanji's expression changed. The others did the same and looked at Zhou Xuanji. Chapter 84. "Master, you are the Prince of Great Zhou?" Zhao Congjian could not help but ask. His expression was complicated, and he could not help but think of Zhou Qingxin. If Zhou Qingxin knew Zhou Xuanji's identity, wouldn't he vomit blood? The powerful cultivator that he tried so hard to rope and was actually his brother, Xiao Jinghong, was in deep thought. Beixiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin were shocked, but they did not ask. Zhou Xuanji wanted to kill the Empress of Great Zhou, so why would it be impossible for him to be the Prince of Great Zhou? Little Jiang Shuai looked at Zhou Xuanji worriedly. She knew what kind of danger he would face if his identity was exposed. Zhou Xuanji stared at the direction where Meng Changhu's group left and said calmly, "Yes, I am the son of Lady Zhao Xian, Zhou Xuanji." Lady Zhao Xian. Everyone's expression changed. They still remembered the shocking incident 11 years ago clearly. Back then, in order to search for Lady Zhao Xian and her son, Great Zhou went to great lengths. All the kingdoms helped, but both mother and son died in the end. "I see," Huang Lianxin mumbled to herself. No wonder Zhou Xuanji wanted to kill the Empress of Great Zhou. All the questions were answered immediately. Back then, Emperor Yin of Zhou favored Lady Zhao Xian, which made the empress jealous. It was not a secret. Xiao Jinghong squinted his eyes and said, "Back then, when revered teacher was just born, he was loved by the emperor. But Lady Zhao Xian's family rebelled at this time. There must be more to it than meets the eye." Beixiao Wangjian nodded and guessed. If they did not rebel, Lady Zhao Xian's family would have a meteoric rise. After the rebellion, the one who benefited the most was the Empress of Great Zhou. Zhao Songjian walked up to Zhou Xuanji and half-knelt. "I will definitely kill my way into the Great Zhou royal palace for master and avenge you." Although he was a sword slave, Zhou Xuanji treated him just as well as Xiao Jinghong. He never treated him harshly. He did not express his feelings, but he remembered them in his heart. Beixiao Wangjian and Huang Lianxin saw this and knelt down as well. "We will go through fire and water for master. Wherever master goes, I will go, even if there is a slim chance of survival." Both of them looked resolute and fearless. Xiao Jinghong knelt down as well and cupped his fists. "A teacher for a day is a teacher for life. Now that I, Xiao Jinghong, have acknowledged you as my master, your matters are my matters. Even if the enemy is the Emperor of Great Zhou, I will definitely stand before you." Looking at the four people in front of him, Zhou Xuanji felt a little teary. Other than Jiang Shui, he didn't expect to get four other people who would risk their lives for him. He laughed heroically and said, "What are you doing? Hurry up and get up. I value my life more than you do. I won't bring you to your deaths." The atmosphere was no longer tense. Everyone smiled and stood up. Jiang Shui smiled and said, "With Xuanji's talent, it will be easy for him to take revenge in the future." Zhou Xuanji nodded and smiled. "We promise to travel the world together. Master, let's make a deal. After you get your revenge, we'll go to the Holy Land of the Sword, 10,000 Swords Divine Mountain. How about that?" Xiao Jinghong smiled as a yearning look appeared on his face. Zhao Songjin's eyes brightened. "The legendary 10,000 Swords Divine Ridge? It really exists?" Xiao Jinghong nodded. Jiang Shui, Beixiao Wangjian, and Huang Lianxin were all curious. They did not know much about the Northern Wilderness region. Not to mention the Northern Wilderness region, they had not even explored the entire Great Zhou dynasty. Zhou Xuanji laughed and said, "Go. Of course. In the future, wherever you want to go, we will go." The group looked at each other and laughed. Even in the face of the Emperor's threat, they still laughed heartily. After chatting for a while, they decided to leave this place. Since Meng Changhu could recognize Zhou Xuanji's identity, it meant danger. Who knew which faction Meng Changhu belonged to? Now that the ascension of Emperor Yin of Zhou was getting closer, the fight for the throne was getting more and more intense. Zhou Xuanji did not want to die recklessly. He could not just shout, "I'm the Prince of Great Zhou, Zhou Xuanji." If he did so, he would die even faster. After all, Zhou Yalong had the highest chance of becoming the emperor. He had already won over half of the royal court, and the empress was even more powerful in the royal palace. Even though Emperor Yin of Zhou had great powers, it was extremely difficult for Zhou Xuanji to appear before him. Woo! A big roar in the sky, and the group flew on their swords. Jiang Shui hugged Zhou Xuanji's waist, while the three-eyed drought rodent was in his arms. The little black snake laid on the three-eyed drought rodent's head and exclaimed, "Impressive. I didn't expect you to be a prince of the Great Zhou dynasty, and of the royal bloodline of the Great Zhou dynasty. Your father is a top-notch almighty in the Northern Wilderness region, and he is world-shaking." It talked endlessly as if it was Emperor Yin of Zhou's son. Zhou Xuanji ignored it and headed deeper into the immortal Sundering Mountain Range. Along the way, they encountered many cultivators. Seeing Zhou Xuanji, those cultivators could not contain their excitement and continuously cried out. They flew for 1,000 li. Zhou Xuanji learned a lot of news. He was already ranked 3rd on the Great Zhou honor ranking. It even overshadowed the brilliance of Great Zhou's heaven selection. Defeating Meng Tianlang was not enough to cause such a stir. It was mainly because of the accumulation of his previous achievements. The Demon Emperor's son, North Zhou Gale Sword, Zhao Songjian, Xiezong, Meng Tianlang, Sword God Zhou, who appeared out of nowhere, was already a legend in the eyes of the people. He was an undefeated legend. How powerful was Meng Tianlang? He was defeated by a single sword strike and almost died. How powerful was Sword God Zhou? Within Great Zhou, it was widely believed that Sword God Zhou had already surpassed the astral infant stage. There were very few experts who surpassed the nascent soul realm, and it was difficult for a dynasty to produce one in 1,000 years. Even within the dynasty, they would be top experts and would be roped in by the court. TSK, if this continues, will people think that you are more powerful than the sword monarch of Great Zhou? Jiang Shui rested her chin on Zhou Xuanji's shoulder and asked with a smile. The strong wind messed up her hair, and she could only squint her eyes. Even so, she was still beautiful. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, Sword God and Sword Monarch, who's more powerful? Can't you tell from their names? Bullshit, but you'll definitely be stronger than him in the future. Jiang Shui pinched Zhou Xuanji's face and giggled. Hey, I'm flying on my sword. Be careful not to get into an accident. Zhou Xuanji cried out loudly, which frightened Jiang Shui so much that she immediately stopped. The others were also laughing. Thinking back to that sword strike from that day, they still felt amazed. They traveled for 7 days. The group found a valley that was open and surrounded by mountains. There was a lake, flowers, and trees in the valley. It was suitable for living. After checking in, everyone continued to cultivate. Zhou Xuanji's goal was to break through to interpel it as soon as possible. Next, every month, he would send Xiao Jinghong and Zhao Songjian out to find out about the Empress' visit to Merciful Melody Cliff. One thing was for sure. Before Great Zhou's heaven selection ended, the Empress, as the mother of the empire, would not go out. For months later, Zhou Xuanji successfully broke through to enlightening level 10. At the same time, Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin reached foundation building level 10. Beixiao Wangjian received a lot of resources and reached enlightening level 8. Zhao Songjian received a year of guidance from Zhou Xuanji and began to break through to Soul Fountain. The entire group was becoming more powerful quickly. This day, Great Zhou's heaven selection's first round ended. Great Zhou's army retreated from Immortal Sundering Mountain. Immortal Sundering Mountain welcomed peace. The demons no longer hid and came out to roam the world. Whoosh! In the valley, Zhou Xuanji, who was cultivating, felt a gust of cold wind. Immortal Sundering Mountain was like spring all year round, and it was rare to have such a cold wind. He looked up instinctively, and his expression changed. He saw a silhouette standing on the top of a mountain. The sun shone above his head, and no one could see his face clearly. Chapter 85. There's someone. Everyone be careful. Xiao Jinghong's voice came from a tree not far away. Zhao Songjian and Beixiao Wangjian, whom he was teaching, turned around as well. Jiang Shui and Huang Lianxin, who were bathing the dragon eagles by the lake, also became alert. The little black snake, who was sleeping soundly on the three-eyed drought rodent's head, quivered and raised its head to look. His Majesty said that you were the chosen one, but you died at the age of 2 and became a joke. I didn't expect you to still be alive. An old voice sounded. His tone was indifferent, and it was impossible to tell what he was feeling. Zhou Xuanji's heart trembled. People from the Great Zhou Empire? Before he could say anything, Xiao Jinghong asked, Who exactly are you, and why have you come here? Sword King Xiao Jinghong? You're quite a character, but it's a pity that you followed the wrong person. The world will belong to the second prince in the future. Zhao Xian's son must die. The ancient voice came again. After that, he leaped up and dived down toward Zhou Xuanji. He rushed out of the sunlight and revealed his true self. He was dressed in a loose black robe, and his face was like an eagle's. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and he was like an evil demon that had been born. Zhou Xuanji took out the Hell King's sword and Thunderclap's sword and prepared to fight. Xiao Jinghong's treasured sword shot towards the black-robed elder like a sharp arrow. Master, this person is also at the nascent soul realm. Leave him to me. Xiao Jinghong bellowed and leaped into the air. He took out another sword and slashed at the black-robed old man. After the black-robed old man dodged the incoming sword, he flipped his right hand, and a black wooden scepter appeared in his hand. The top of the scepter looked like a scorched claw, and it was horrifying. The scepter and the sword clashed together, causing sparks to fly and an ear-piercing sound. Xiao Jinghong turned around and caught the other sword with his left hand. Wielding his sword with both hands, he moved like a swallow and fought fiercely with the black-robed old man in the air. The two of them attacked extremely quickly, and even Zhou Xuanji was dazzled by their movements. Zhao Songjin looked at the sky with a burning gaze. This guy had forgotten about the danger. He only felt excited and wanted to learn something. Xiao Jinghong's swords were like the wind, and his attacks were swift and fierce, similar to Zhou Xuanji's style. The black-robed old man held the scepter in his hand, and strands of evil qi seeped out from the scepter, turning into numerous ghost heads that surrounded Xiao Jinghong. Compared to Xiao Jinghong, the black-robed old man's movements were bold and majestic, and he had the aura of a general. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. He could tell that Xiao Jinghong did not have the upper hand. From the looks of it, this person was at the peak of the nascent soul realm. Jiang Shui walked to Zhou Xuanji's side and took out the flaming fan. Do we need help? Zhou Xuanji said, We can't interfere. Let's not give him more trouble. He was somewhat moved that Xiao Jinghong would still stand up for the experts of the great Zhou Empire. Now that he thought about it, Xiao Jinghong had already helped him several times before he had mastered the dual sword intent that he had taught him. To have such a disciple was the greatest fortune of his life. The battle continued. The black-robed elder's aura grew stronger and stronger. Even though Xiao Jinghong kept switching his sword intents, he was still unable to gain the upper hand. The two of them continued to fight along the mountain wall, causing rocks to fall from the mountain. If they continued to fight like this, they would probably fill up the entire valley. Xiao Jinghong, you are indeed powerful. But when I was young, I was ranked in the top 5 of Great Zhou's hero ranking board. Now that I am 7 levels higher than you, you are no match for me. The black-robed elder snorted coldly. His tone was filled with coldness and murderous intent. After he spoke, he leaped up abruptly and shook off Xiao Jinghong. A billowing black wind came out from his sleeves and circled around his body, forming into a black dragon that was hundreds of meters long. It roared furiously and shook the heavens and the earth. The little black snake opened its eyes wide at this scene and said with a trembling voice, Dragon's soul. This old guy is so lucky. Next, the black-robed elder entered the black dragon's head. The black dragon twisted its body and charged toward Xiao Jinghong with an unstoppable force. Swoosh! 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 Xiao Jinghong did not panic at all. He danced with his sword on the spot, and streaks of sword shadows appeared out of nowhere. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword shadows appeared around him. He stabbed with his sword, and all the sword shadows shot out simultaneously. It was like a powerful current crashing into the black dragon. Boom! The surrounding mountains shook violently. The trees swayed, and a violent gale blew. Zhou Xuanji looked up at this scene with squinted eyes. He looked calm, but he was actually worried for Xiao Jinghong. At the same time, he was looking for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the black-robed elder. Soon, Xiao Jinghong's sword shadows were torn apart by the black dragon. The black dragon crashed into Xiao Jinghong's face, and the horrifying force caused Xiao Jinghong to vomit blood immediately. His body smashed in a mountain wall like a cannonball and disappeared. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The black-robed elder stood high above. He turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and said, Prince Xuanji, remember, the person who captured you is called Qin Shitsun. Come with me to see the Empress. He charged toward Zhou Xuanji suddenly, and the black dragon followed him. Its 100-meter-long body was awe-inspiring and gave off an unstoppable aura. Clang! Clang! Xiao Jinghong suddenly appeared in front of the black dragon and stabbed with both swords. The swords pierced through the black dragon's head and into Qin Chitsuan's shoulders. So fast, Zhao Songjian opened his eyes wide and cried out in disbelief. He did not see Xiao Jinghong's movement trajectory at all. Qin Chitsuan was shocked too. He saw that Xiao Jinghong was surrounded by two types of sword wills, one green and one white, each occupying half of his body. The sword Qi was visible to the naked eye. He stared at Qin Chitsuan coldly, as though he was looking at a dead man. This is two types of sword wills? How can it be? Qin Chitsuan cried out in shock. He suddenly remembered that Sword God Zhou was proficient in dual sword wills. Xiao Jinghong learned dual sword wills by following Sword God Zhou. Before he could think further, Xiao Jinghong relied on dual sword wills and unleashed an unprecedented attack, which forced him back step by step. He learned dual sword wills. Beixiao Wangjian mumbled to himself. His tone was a little bitter. This was his talent. Comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. Zhou Xuanji shook his head slightly. He could tell that Xiao Jinghong only broke through in the face of danger, and his dual sword wills were not stable. After being slashed by Xiao Jinghong for dozens of times, Qin Chitsuan was covered in blood. He went completely berserk and roared. The black dragon materialized again and grew even bigger. Xiao Jinghong stepped back suddenly. He held the sword in his right hand in front of him and the sword in his left hand behind his back. The blade was pointed at the center of his brows. His eyes were cold and sharp, and he was prepared to kill Qin Chitsuan in one strike. The two sword wills transformed into green and white flames, and his aura grew even more powerful. Swoosh! He transformed into a beam of light that alternated between green and white and charged toward Qin Chitsuan. Boom! The black dragon collapsed, and Xiao Jinghong's swords pierced through Qin Chitsuan's abdomen. Blood splattered. The black-robed old man hit Xiao Jinghong's back with his staff, and the sound of bones breaking was extremely clear. Next, Qin Chitsuan slammed into the mountain wall, while Xiao Jinghong fell to the bottom of the valley. The impact swept up a cloud of dust. Zhou Xuanji and the others immediately surrounded him. Xiao Jinghong coughed up blood continuously and no longer had the strength to stand up. Almost. Damn, Xiao Jinghong said with dissatisfaction. He spoke with great difficulty. Zhou Xuanji squatted in front of him and said, "You have done well." His opponent was not an ordinary person. It was not easy for Xiao Jinghong to injure him so severely. At this moment, a horrifying aura exploded from the mountain wall. A black dragon emerged from the hole in the mountain wall. Qin Chitsuan, who was covered in blood, flew out slowly. His face was hideous. He covered his abdomen with his left hand, and blood gushed out from between his fingers. Xiao Jinghong, I'm going to make you wish you were dead, but unable to. Qin Chitsuan roared with gritted teeth. His eyes were filled with madness. Everyone was shocked and got up to fight. Zhou Xuanji took a step forward and said, "Take good care of him." After that, strands of black qi came out from the Hell King's sword and formed into the Hell King, which attached itself to his body. The thunderclap sword emitted lightning that surrounded the Hell King, which looked like the god of thunder. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.